Chapter 1391, Lord of All Skies. Chapter 1391, Lord of All Skies. Shuryen knew that he was in an extremely good condition. An immortal pellet had helped him break the bottleneck quickie. He had directly entered the immortal realm. In this new realm, his body, the god power ancient tree, and the soul altar had transformed differently. However, the thing that had changed the most was his dark energy. Today, in his body, besides the god power ancient tree as the source of energy, his sea of consciousness also had another source of energy. The god power had nurtured him entirely. His body was filled with abundant energy. Dark energy had changed and boosted his soul altar and made his power Upanishads more exquisite and profound. His host soul now was so vigorous, and his soul altar now had an endless source of energy. Each wisp of his soul consciousness could reach out unceasingly. Star and space power Upanishads now had new changes. Thus, he could control the sharp space sabers as much as he wanted. He could even feel the spatial blind spots around. The so-called spatial blind spots were the mysterious spaces that the warriors could never sense. Only experts with profound space power Upanishad could grasp them. They could use the spatial blind spots to hide or burst out furious attacks. Just like a room or a forest with shades, space had some areas that the ordinary warriors could never see. Those areas were called spatial blind spots. Audrey, Evelyn's, Adams, and Masha were standing on an asteroid that wasn't far from Dragon's star continent. They could still watch the battle between Forefather Dragon Lizard and Sing and see what was happening over there. However, many aliens on the continent couldn't see their asteroid. It was because the asteroid was staying in a spatial blind spot. Except for the experts with Sing's Forefather Dragon Lizards, or the Masked Woman's realm, they could find those spots if they sensed very carefully. In other words, in a short time, Audrey's group didn't need to worry about their safety. With the power of the experts with space power Upanishad like Shuryen, after he had reached the immortal realm, he wasn't afraid of Sing's or Forefather Dragon Lizard's wrath. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 7 brutal souls were like ominous fiends that hovered around Forefather Dragon Lizard and attacked him. Dragon Lizard sneered and created a massive phantom of a lizard, his real form. The giant scarlet lizard looked like it was made of fire and was wrestling with 7 brutal souls that stirred the entire land. They made Dragon Lizard continent look like it was about to shatter. At this moment, the asteroids and shining space blades above Shuryen's head were cutting and impacting with the land, tearing the entire continent. When Sing and Dragon Lizard were fighting furiously, many aliens had become greedy and they wanted to seize the chance to capture Shuryen and kill him to absorb his soul. They thought that they could reach the territory ancestor realm if they got him. Some of them had discreetly and proactively prepared and approached him. However, Shuryen suddenly burst out crazily and guided a lot of broken stars and asteroids with the space blades, making them a huge downpour on those sneaky warriors. He had killed around 10 warriors of the alien tribes in just a blink of an eye. Those warriors' realms weren't low. Some had even reached second sky of immortal realm. They had underestimated Shuryen's intimidation and his brutality. The asteroids had blown them off and made them pieces of meat. The space sabers had minced them and left only their souls floating, shrieking, and cursing maliciously. Shuryen didn't dare to show the devouring power Upanishad's ability. He didn't release the black hole and just used his acupuncture points to absorb the energy and essence chi from the dead warriors. As he had just reached first sky of immortal realm, his body was now a sponge that needed a lot of energy. Receiving the energy and essence chi of the dead made him feel so refreshed. I know you want to kill me and refine my soul to help you reach territory ancestor realm. Shuryen raked through the area, chuckled, and relaxed. Anyone with this idea could come and check. Maybe you can succeed. All right, I'm here to give you a chance and an opportunity to break through to territory ancestor realm. You shouldn't let it slip away. At this moment, Forefather Dragon Lizard and Sing were still attacking each other. Sing hadn't used his great weapon yet. He hadn't activated the power of the soul-refining cauldron as he wanted to wait for the most suitable time when the cauldron would kill Forefather Dragon Lizard in one attempt. Forefather Dragon Lizard was resentful because of Sing's dark deeds, so he didn't want to show mercy. However, he was currently just a clone with limited power. He couldn't kill Sing directly. However, he had another plan, so he wasn't really anxious. He was also waiting for an opportunity. He was waiting for the instant kill attack by Tu Shurqi and his wife Yun. As the two great experts couldn't even help themselves, the other warriors, of course, had their own ideas. They wanted to seize this chance to capture Shuryen and then leave Dragon Lizard Star immediately. Perhaps they could claim victory this time. The tragic death of the others was a big warning to them. Now, they knew that Shuryen had the power to counterattack. However, as he had just reached first sky of Immortal Realm, they thought that he had only those asteroids and broken stars as his weapon and that he depended on external forces. Gradually, the real experts quietly moved toward Shuryen. They looked stern and yearning. Should we take action now? Yuan Mo of the Water Tribe was hesitant and asked for direction. Don't rush. The masked woman of the Phantom Tribe had deep eyes. She was several exploding mountain ranges away from Shuryen. She stopped the Water Tribe from taking rash actions and smiled. That kid isn't as easy to deal with as he seems. If he dares to initiate the battle, of course, he has some good backup. We should just wait and see then. While talking, her line of sight moved around and then fell on the massive pit on the ground. She could feel something strange. Forefather Dragon Lizard was acting strangely. She thought that there was something hiding deep underground. Bursting lightning. All of a sudden, a terrifying roar came. An alien warrior at second sky of Immortal Realm emerged in front of Shuryen, lightning beams winding around his body like snakes. As soon as the wild snakes left his body, they swelled up and turned into dozens of bucket-sized lightning snakes. Those snakes were lively as if they were real. They could even spurt lightning and icy mist. While dozens of large snakes flew away, they twisted and changed, turning into a curved formation. That formation looked like an electrical net with snakes as the lines that grumblingly snatched over Shuryen. Rumble, rumble, rumble. While the snake-like electric net was coming, the earth-shaking lightning and thunder had become more furious as if they wanted to drown Shuryen altogether. The sky was shadowed by the giant, lightning snakes. Shuryen frowned. He found that this alien warrior had cultivated lightning power Upanishad to the Immortal Realm, but his real fighting competence couldn't be compared to Lei Di, the immemorial thunder dragon, regardless of the realm or the intensity of god power. They were too different. Stars and asteroids. Shuryen sat down cross-legged and lifted his head to watch the sky. The pupils in his eyes were as bright as stars. His eyes seemed to cover the stars in the skies as if he was the lord of all skies. The asteroids and broken stars hovering above his head began to lower like a falling galaxy. Rumble, rumble, rumble. So many lightning snakes in the sky were hit by the asteroids that were even bigger than entire mountain ranges. The meteors shot them and made the electrical beams scatter in the sky. The attack by the warrior at second sky of Immortal Realm cultivating lightning power Upanishad backfired. His body flashed and thundered. He looked charred as if he had just been roasted. Life magnetic field. Shuryen grinned and shouted again. From him as the center, a vigorous life magnetic field expanded rapidly. Anyone who came near the magnetic field couldn't control their bodies. Their hearts began to beat frantically. Their vitality was triggered and they reddened. They seemed to be pumped with endless energy in just a blink of an eye. However, that energy came from their burning vitality, which wasn't something familiar with them, so they couldn't control it. Their skin cracked and bled terribly. Wounds showed when the vitality was triggered hard and their bodies couldn't endure it. If they couldn't control it, they were going to quickly blow up. Life power Upanishad. The masked woman screamed in fear. Her soft and tender voice became sharp and ear-piercing. Her deep eyes shot out astounding light as if she had just discovered a whole new continent. Explode. Looking at a warrior at first sky of Immortal Realm, Shuryen grinned. At the same time, a hot look shot to that warrior, and it seemed to ignite a sea of fire. The body of that warrior was ultimately inflated like a balloon. He burst shortly after. His internal organs and flesh exploded into pieces and shot everywhere. The scene was terribly bloody. I didn't know he was that strong. Masha's soft body quivered while standing on the asteroid and hiding in the blind spot. Looking at Shiryen, she was extremely frightened. Lucky us. We got a good sense and we didn't offend this god of slaughter. Adams forced a smile and felt very lucky. Evelyn's was pensive. His face convulsed and he felt so chilled. The brutality that Shiryen had performed was beyond what they could imagine. After reaching the immortal realm, Shiryen had advanced greatly and his competence was amazing. Audrey was close to Shiryen, but she was so astounded. She knew that Shiryen was strong, but she didn't expect Shiryen to be that strong. He was truly powerful as he could kill second sky of immortal realm experts when he had just broken through to first sky of immortal realm. It was unimaginable and it was against the rules of nature. The realms of the warriors in the sea domain of nihility aren't low, but their competencies are too ordinary. They're not as fierce as Xianhe, Frederick, or Lei. Strange, Shiryen was also surprised. He found that some of the warriors he had just killed had the same realm as Xianhe and Lei, but the power they showed and their understanding of power Upanishads weren't as powerful as Xianhe or Frederick's. They were obviously one level lower than the others. Shiryen didn't know that the top existences in desolate territory like Xianhe and Frederick were the overlords in the area 10,000 years ago. After they had received the power Upanishads from Bloodthirsty, their realms and power had advanced greatly. After 10,000 years of accumulation, they were all formidable characters at the ultimate level. Xianhe and Frederick could compare to the same realm warriors from the 7 great clans in the sea domain of nihility. The warriors fighting against Shiryen here belonged to 3rd-class and 2nd-class clans. They couldn't be compared to the members of the 7 great clans. It was the main reason why Shiryen felt that they were so weak. Chapter 1392, Conceal. Chapter 1392, Conceal. Underscore the asteroids and broken stars in the sky fell and one warrior cultivating lighting power Upanishad exploded to death. The void above Shiryen's head became clear. 3 aliens at second sky of a mortal realm that stormed toward Shiryen were like moths heading to a fire. They finally showed their fangs. The icy mist, strong winds, and sharp metal power emerged from their bodies, which were enough to tear this continent and dismember the ordinary warriors at first sky of a mortal realm. Now, Shiryen, without the asteroids and broken pieces of stars flying around him, was like a hedgehog without spikes in their eyes. Shiryen, their delicious meat, squinted. His face was calm as he sat still. The phantom woman gently parted her lips to a smile as she was interested. Her laughter arose when she wormed between the 3 alien experts. Her graceful, voluptuous body quivered and a powerful energy that could collapse the souls rippled through her. Tui. The 3 aliens at second sky of immortal realm vomited blood. Their faces were as pale as a sheet of white paper. They clutched their hearts and foreheads, running away even though their chests were bleeding hard. The stronger experts who were waiting patiently had to change their countenances and plans to hide. No one dared to approach recklessly. "You're really fierce," the soft voice that could enchant people's souls arose. She stopped around 10 meters in front of Shiryen and studied him. Shiryen furrowed his brows. The woman in front of him was so sexy. Shiryen almost couldn't control his fire of desire as he saw her round rear end bounce. Her fearsome mask had accompanied her marvelous, seductive body well, giving her a more powerful attractiveness. She made people imagine her face under the mask and become more curious. The scorching aura in the tier of heaven flames changed instantly. A flow of cold energy flooded the sea of consciousness and spread to his entire body. It was indeed chilled to the bones. He had recovered his calmness and said indifferently, "Precursor, what do you want to tell me?" "Nah, call me Jiejie. I like it when you call me that." The woman giggled softly, her voice so tender as if she didn't have any bones at all. "Jiejie wants to discuss something with you. If you agree with me, I will help you shoo these annoying bastards away. What do you think?" She raked through the others and said, "Yeah, I know you're fierce. You've just broken through to a new realm anyway. It would be a headache for you to deal with so many venomous snakes. As long as you nod your head, Jiejie will treat you well." I will delight you for sure. People gulped as her eyes glided through them. Those who were hiding had relatively high realms. What do you want me to agree with you? Slowly, Shi Yan's brows became frosted. To deal with this woman's mind-tricking technique, he had to consume his god power every minute. It was a little tough, though. He was discreetly frightened as he found that this woman from the Phantom Clan wasn't weaker than Sing or Dragon Lizard. Well, come to my Phantom Clan and become our clan's male guest. Yeah, I can let you marry a girl in our clan. You can freely use the cultivating materials of our clan. The woman had watery eyes, which made people drool for her. The warriors of the other clans cried in surprise. The male guest of the Phantom Clan was similar to the non-native officer of the mysterious Sky Clan. The Phantom Clan offered them materials to cultivate to exchange for their efforts in supporting the clan. Each male guest could choose a woman of the beautiful Phantom Clan to be his wife. Also, women of the Phantom Clan were famous for their glamour in the sea domain. Many people had yearned for their beauties. She had just invited Shi Yan to join Phantom Clan. What a slut! Audrey shouted with a cold face on the asteroid. Masha threw her a glance and smiled. She knew that Audrey and Shi Yan had an ambiguous relationship. The Phantom Clan's invitation had enraged her. Audrey's eyes were like ice arrows shooting toward Shi Yan. Her look carried her soul power. Shi Yan couldn't help but turn around and look at the void in the sky. His eyes seemed to get through the spatial blind spot as he gazed at Audrey. Audrey was stunned. She didn't expect that Shi Yan could see her through such a distance. Audrey's cold face suddenly felt hot and she blushed. She hurried to retreat and hid behind Masha. Shi Yan smiled and didn't look more. He turned to the masked woman, not interested. The masked woman stopped, her eyes cold. She nodded and said nothing else before walking back to Yuan Mo of the Water Tribe. Then, the warriors here suddenly burst out as if their madness had just been triggered. They became angry and attacked Shi Yan fearlessly. Yuan Mo felt so chilled. He glanced at the masked woman and bent his body. It was the fierce, intimidating power of the Phantom Clan. Each woman of the clan had an excellent cultivation base and outstanding competencies. They could enchant people when they hadn't recognized it, which made those female warriors able to control the enchanted warriors. This power was innate, and every female warrior of the Phantom Clan could do that smoothly. Currently, many warriors of the alien tribes were affected. They became bold and fearless, trying to attack Shi Yan explicitly without waiting for the right chance. They didn't even care about their lives. You're bold, Shi Yan hissed at the woman and stomped his feet. The stone ground underneath exploded grumblingly. Countless pieces of stone swept around like a powerful storm. When the rocks covered the entire sky, Shi Yan became vague in layers of waves rippling. He disappeared abruptly. Dozens of male aliens stormed toward him. 10 of them had reached second sky of Immortal Realm and 1 even was at third sky of Immortal Realm. Those warriors had lost their minds. They weren't afraid of death and they all wanted to kill him. He couldn't help but decide to dodge the spear. He pumped dark energy into his veins to turn invisible immediately. Naked eyes couldn't see him and the soul consciousness couldn't sense him. He was literally invisible. Even the Phantom Woman was surprised. Her beautiful eyes twinkled as she used her power Upanishad to find him. She found it peculiar, indeed. She thought that his space power Upanishad was really marvelous as she couldn't even spot him. Suddenly, her sexy body shivered. She suddenly remembered something, her beautiful eyes excited. It was the effect of dark energy. Her red, painted fingernails dug into her flesh as she was so excited. Her flashing eyes searched around. Boom! A 6-armed brutal soul with a dragon body had punched the giant lizard continuously. Thunder had shaken the entire horizon. Forefather Dragon Lizard's clone had a red face while rigid muscles on his body convulsed and sent high flames to the void. Then, he flew to the giant lizard and merged with it. Dragon Lizard, you're forcing me. Sing was about to use his real flame. The mountain of souls and spirits under his feet suddenly screeched and shrieked. The 10,000-meter-tall brutal souls flew out. They all had strange shapes and wildly bit the giant lizard. At the same time, a jade bell emerged in Sing's hand. If Audrey and the other three could see the bell, they would find that its material was very similar to the three-legged jade cauldron. The bell itself had so many absolute beginning symbols on the surface too. Tinkle, tinkle. Sing jingled the bell. The symbols on the bell looked lively and they moved like snakes. The chunk of meat that Dragon Lizard had cut off from his body deep underground was shriveling rapidly as the energy and blood chi were taken away. Shortly after, it became dry meat without blood and water. Finally, he takes action. Tu Chi and Yiyun looked shaken. They immediately stormed to the cave underground. Grrrrrrr. Arg! Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body groaned and roared accordingly. The entire continent shook. Mountains collapsed. Rocks exploded. Dragon Lizard's star was about to be destroyed. On the ground, Forefather Dragon Lizard's clone acted well. He clutched his chest and rolled on the ground with a fierce countenance. Sing, what have you done to me? Sing didn't answer him. While using the giant brutal soul to fatally attack the forefather, he didn't stay idle and immediately entered the cave. He wanted to find and kill Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body underground. The woman from the Phantom clan wanted to find Shiryen. However, when she saw that Sing and Dragon Lizard had some critical changes, her eyes became bright and her thoughts changed. The aliens who were slashing and killing each other after their target had disappeared and suddenly changed their target. They all squeezed to get into the cave that Sing had just jumped into. That cave was oozing lava. Lava oozed out from that cave as it had connected directly to deep inside Dragon Lizard's star, which was leading to Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body. The woman chuckled and gave up on finding Shiryen. She walked to Dragon Lizard's clone that was groaning in pain. She carefully avoided the blood puddles on the ground in her way. It seems like you have the soul-refining cauldron in your body. As Sing has attacked you with the soul-refining cauldron, I think you can't escape this culpa. She loomed over Dragon Lizard's clone and said seriously, "Give me the other 2 immortal pellets. I promise I will save some seeds for your clan. I won't let your clan be eradicated." She turned to Dulei, Defeng, and Walker. She said sincerely, "They're at second sky of Immortal Realm. If our Phantom clan protects them and if they can reach the Territory Ancestor Realm in the future, your Dragon Lizard clan will have a chance to rise. It's your last chance. I hope you will consider my offer carefully." Forefather, Forefather, Forefather. Dulei and the other 2 screamed, dashing toward with worried faces. Forefather Dragon Lizard's whimpered clone suddenly quieted. A bloodthirsty, ruthless intention emerged in his eyes as he answered calmly. "Well, we Dragon Lizard clan don't need your Phantom clan to put your nose in our business." The Phantom clan woman discolored in fright. Chapter 1393, Goddess Gorgeous Dance. Chapter 1393, Goddess Gorgeous Dance. _ you. The Phantom clan masked woman pointed her green, onion-like finger to Forefather Dragon Lizard's clone and screamed in surprise. Dulei and the other 2 were also bewildered. Forefather Dragon Lizard snorted and lifted his head to look at the crocodile brutal soul. He roared and the massive scarlet lizard got more pumped vitality. It rolled and roared like a dragon. Now it was as powerful as that giant crocodile. Dragon Lizard continent was shaking continuously. It seemed like the sky was about to fall. The flaming lava oozed from many pits and ditches on the ground. The entire continent became red. At the same time, many red-brown rocks were throbbing as if they were some sort of strange hearts. Roaring and bellowing continuously arose from deep underground. It seemed like Forefather Dragon Lizard's true body underground had to endure formidable pain, and he was struggling for the last time before his death. The warriors from the smaller clans were frightened when they observed the changes of the continent. They wanted to do something, but they knew they weren't strong enough. Many people now had no interest in the Dragon Lizard clan's bustling festival. They silently left the place and stayed away from this land of trouble. Also, a bigger group of warriors thought that it would be their chance as they were confident in their abilities. Thus, they stayed and hid in the dark to wait for the right chance. "I've acted rashly. Forefather Dragon Lizard, please forgive me," the phantom masked woman reacted timely. She recovered, smiling and talking in her sweet, soft voice. Seems like you've prepared well. Right. I hate that Sing of the Soul clan too. I wish for your victory, forefather. Then, she flew away. After a flash, she reappeared by Yuan Mo of the Water Tribe and said coldly, Sing will be over this time. Sing is also at the peak of Immortal Realm. He's as strong as Forefather Dragon Lizard. Even if they ambush him, he won't die, will he? Yuan Mo was inexplicably surprised. The masked woman looked at the lava pond, strange light flashing in her eyes. Tu Shirchi and his wife Yun from the mysterious Sky Clan should be hiding in the ground and waiting for Sing. With Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body, I think Sing can't dodge this culpa. The subterranean lava pond is where Forefather Dragon Lizard's true body lives. I'm sure he has refined it to be very strong and tough. Sing can't escape. Yuan Mo was frightened. Since when did Forefather Dragon Lizard and the mysterious Sky Clan join hands? The masked woman shook her head. She didn't answer him, but she thought of another idea. With her magical soul consciousness at third sky of Immortal Realm, she quietly searched around. She came to a new decision. Forefather Dragon Lizard wasn't trapped and Sing couldn't get out of it alive. She knew that she couldn't seize the chance and take the immortal pellets from Forefather Dragon Lizard. Thus, Shiryen was going to be her next target for her benefits. He had a soul wisp from an absolute beginning creature. He understood dark energy. Absolutely, he was a precious treasure in this world. Even if she couldn't get him for the Phantom Clan, she would never let another force benefit from him. She wanted to check Shiryan's direction and location. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A brutal soul that had swallowed thousands of departed souls to be stronger was also attacking the lizard together with the crocodile. This brutal soul was the most special among the 7 brutal souls Sing had. It was because this brutal soul had a human form. Although he was dozens of times taller than a normal person, he appeared and acted like a human. This brutal soul was Minghong, an expert and Audrey's ancestor. After he was refined and made a brutal soul, when Sing fought against the others, he couldn't control himself. He had to cooperate with Sing to attack his enemies. Right now, he was attacking the giant lizard, although he didn't want to do it. A magical energy wave arose deep in his soul. Minghong was bewildered while tearing the lizard. A message bloomed in his mind. I am Shiryen from Desolate Territory, just like you. My friend is called Audrey. She's the daughter of Adele, the current matriarch of Imperial Dark Tribe. An absolute beginning creature called Hui had sent us here to this sea domain of nihility. We're lost. We don't know how to go back home. Minghong turned into a brutal soul and joined hands with the 10,000-meter-long crocodile to attack the giant lizard. However, this soul message still echoed in his head. We want to return to Desolate Territory, and we want to unchain you too. How can we help you? That voice still talked to him. Minghong was so thrilled. Adele's daughter. She's Adele's daughter. He screamed in his soul. He was in the same generation as Minghao and Adele's grandfather, so he was about as old as Audrey's great-grandfather. He had taught Minghao, so he knew Minghao had a blood sister called Adele. Thus, his relationship with Audrey wasn't shallow. Even without this relationship, because Audrey was from Imperial Dark Tribe, he was going to try his best to help them. He knew this as soon as he came and found Audrey cultivating. She's one of us. One of us. As soon as Minghong confirmed this, he discreetly communicated with Shiryen while engaging with the giant lizard. Currently, Forefather Dragon Lizard's clone had advised Dulei, Defeng, and Walker before jumping into the ground and leaving only the phantom of the massive lizard created by his energy. That phantom was engaging with the giant crocodile and Minghong, leaving them no extra time to help Sing. Thus, Minghong didn't have heavy pressure. Although he couldn't control his body, his soul connection wasn't restricted. If Sing isn't dead, I can't be released. If Sing is killed, I can escape. I know the entrance to Desolate Territory. As long as I'm freed, I can take you guys back to Desolate Territory, said Minghong. Don't worry. Sing will die this time. I have no doubt. Besides Forefather Dragon Lizard, Tu Shirchi and his wife Yun from the mysterious Sky Clan are underground too. Forefather Dragon Lizard has set up something. If Sing has the guts to come down, he shouldn't dream of running away, assured Shiryen. Minghong was thrilled upon listening to him. He screamed, as long as Sing is killed, I can escape his bind. Then, I will give Audrey a big surprise. What surprise? It's our Imperial Dark Tribe's business. Don't ask too much. The masked woman from the Phantom Tribe had her dark eyes brightened. She took action one more time. Shortly after, she came to the cave that led to the underground. Lifting her head to look at the crocodile and the lizard fighting, she parted her lips into a smile. While smiling, she rose one arm to pull something. Thud! A gray shadow materialized in front of her on the dusted ground. That was Shiryen, who had gone invisible. My good little brother, what are you doing? Sneaking something? She smiled and agilely walked towards Shiryen. Yeah, you and Forefather Dragon Lizard should have some dark agreement, right? I can tell. You have cooperated with Forefather Dragon Lizard and two Shirchi of the mysterious Sky Clan. Haha, you little evil runt. You made Sing and Forefather Dragon Lizard fight against each other sooner than planned. Shiryen felt chilled. Looking at the smiling, approaching woman, he felt a massive mountain press on his soul. That masked woman gave him a terrible threat. Currently, Forefather Dragon Lizard, Sing, and two Shirchi were fighting underground. She thought that it was the right chance for her. She couldn't help but take action to trouble Shiryen. Crack! Crack! Shiryen's skeleton sounded like metal clanging. So many sharp spikes jutted out from his joints. A pair of bone wings appeared on his back. While his body was transforming, his blood chi rose high. His life energy and power began to surge. His eyes became crimson like blood. The acupuncture points in his entire body gathered the essence chi of the dead warriors. A ruthless light shot out from his head and reached up into the sky like a towering garnet tree. Thump! 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 His heart beat faster like rapid drum beats. After each beat, his blood boiled and burned harder. Swoosh! 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 With Shiryen as the center, the broken stars and rocks around suddenly floated up. Dozens of thousands of rocks wildly twirled in the void like stars in a galaxy. A current of powerful star energy came from nowhere and poured into this strange star formation. Boom! That eccentric star formation emitted a cold, eliminating aura. Each starlight beam could even destroy a whole planet. Bunches of beams bombarded the masked woman. The masked woman no longer smiled. Her dark eyes were filled with panic. When the starlight beam shot toward her, her fearsome mask cracked as if it had to bear heavy pressure. You're heartless. You're so cruel to Jia. You really do want to smash the flower. The soft body of that masked woman began to twist as she was dancing. Countless illusions of sexy women flew out of her body. Those women wore flimsy, silky clothes, holding jade trays or fruits. Some even were undressing. They smiled charmingly and seducing and approached Shiryen. Starlight shone on them. Innumerable illusions of young maids turned into ashes. After one of them was destroyed, the power of the starlight was slightly reduced. The masked woman shivered as if her energy was drained. Eventually, there were no more starlight beams. They were all gone. However, many sexy women were still dancing and floating one after another, giggling while going closer to Shiryen. They wanted to pull him into their sweet aroma and make him never wake up. You evil kid. You disregarded my good intentions. You smashed my heart. Yeah, I'm begrudging. I can only invite you to our Phantom Clan. Well, we're going to enjoy the best things there. Don't worry. Jia won't mistreat you. What the mysterious Sky Clan can offer, we can too. Our phantom women are more beautiful than the mysterious Sky Woman. I'm sure you will sink and you won't want to leave. The masked woman chuckled and looked at so many gorgeous but vulgar women entangling Shiryen. She finally exhaled in relief. Her goddess gorgeous dance was the exclusive mind-enchanting technique of the Phantom Clan. It worked on every male creature in this world. She had never failed when using this technique. She believed that even he was made of steel, those beautiful women made of her soul consciousness could melt him down. So many goddesses, which were the representatives of lust, were seducing and enchanting as they attacked Shiryen. Shiryen had hot eyes as if he was aroused. He stood still and didn't have any reaction while so many gorgeous goddesses were clutching his arms and calves and pulling him toward the masked woman. The masked woman giggled happily. Chapter 1394. Dragon Lizard's True Body. Chapter 1394. Dragon Lizard's True Body. Shiryen was flying happily in his sweet dreams. He couldn't control himself and he just let himself fall into the enemy's hands. In his erotic dream, he saw a warm, clear river where he was soaking with around 10 hot, voluptuous bodies who were wholeheartedly delighting him. The mind-enchanting technique of the Phantom Clan wasn't a power Upanishad. It was their innate talent, which wasn't different from the third eye of the Heavenly Eye clan. The mind-enchanting technique aimed at the lusty desires that men hid in their hearts. Through that desire, they were controlled. Usually with his tough mind, Shiryen didn't yield that way. However, as he had just reached the immortal realm and his acupuncture had just swallowed too much essence chi from the dead, his body was filled with a large amount of negative energy. The negative emotions like brutality, bloodthirstiness, and even lechery he had subdued didn't affect him in normal cases. However, as the masked woman had used the mind technique to seduce him, it was like she had just ignited dry wood. His confined lust burst out and rocketed massively, driving him away from the right direction. The masked woman had chosen the right time to use her mind-seducing technique. The masked woman's eyes were so charming when she gently smiled and danced. More beautiful women flew out from her and entangled with the young man. Shiryen smiled lustily and proactively dashed toward the masked woman as the sexy bodies leaned against his body. Jie will treat you well. As long as you come to our Phantom Clan, I'm sure you will forget anything but joy. Come. I'm taking you with me. The masked woman's soft laughter could intrude the sea of consciousness. Some male aliens, even though they were very far from her, had their blood boil. Their breathing shortened as they were trying hard to suppress their erotic desires. Soon, Shiryen was forced to walk to the masked woman while the illusory women she had released were surrounding him. Yuan Amo, don't worry about your water tribe. Our Phantom Clan will take care of you guys, smiled the masked woman. As she saw the strange expression on Yuan Mo's handsome face, she knew that he was also affected by her mind-enchanting technique. She felt disdainful but still smiled at him. I won't involve myself in the matter here. Yeah, you water tribe should leave early too. Her white neck craned as she looked at the dark and cold void. She seemed to call for something there. Swish! A dazzling light shot over. After the intense light vanished, a 7-colored crystal war chariot was exposed. It was in a rhombus shape and twinkling like stars in the sky. She moved quickly and then landed on the war chariot while the illusory women were floating Shiryen up. They also landed on the 7-colored crystal war chariot. Let's go, her jade-like hand tapped the war chariot. The crystal war chariot zoomed through the darkness like a starlight beam and tried to fly away from this land of trouble. Grrrr! Forefather Dragon Lizard's true body howled from deep underground. Abruptly, 16 asteroids outside the continent happened to be like exploding hedgehogs. They shot billions of flaming spikes toward Dragon Lizard continent. Boom! 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 In just a blink of an eye, the crystal war chariot was pierced through. The flaming spikes had shot through it and left thumb-sized holes on the chariot's body, making it look like a beehive. The control mechanism broke. The war chariot stopped. The masked woman became cold. She looked at Dragon Lizard continent underneath. Her slender fingers clutched Shiryen's arm. She wanted to run away and sway through the shower of flaming spikes to leave Dragon Lizard continent quickly. Boom! Boom! Deep under the ground of the continent came earth-destroying explosions. Dragon Lizard continent drifted into different pieces. Shortly after, the entire continent was divided and turned into a sea of asteroids in just a blink of an eye. A beast of around 10 million meters rose. Its body was garnet and it emerged on the corner of an icy mountain when the continent drifted apart. Its back had humps. Its dark red body looked like a long mountain range that carried hundreds of asteroids. When its back shook, those asteroids exploded. Right after that, the real appearance of the massive beast came to people's sights. It was covered in garnet, flaming scales. It had a fearsome head that looked like a dragon head while dragging a mountain range-long tail. The giant lizard opened its mouth and boiling lava streamed out massively. It was the real body of Forefather Dragon Lizard. It was the real Forefather Dragon Lizard. As soon as Dragon Lizard's true body emerged, the massive lizard phantom that was fighting with the crocodile immediately retreated and disappeared into the dark red eyes of Dragon Lizard. Roar! Dragon Lizard faced the sky and roared indignantly. A stream of lava shot out of his mouth like a meteor. The phantom-masked woman grabbed Shiryen and attempted to escape. The fire on the crystal war chariot had just extinguished, and the woman hadn't moved yet before the lava stream covered her. She changed her visage and immediately urged her power Upanishad and God power. The brilliant, rainbow-like energy quickly weaved and created a curtain. The brilliant curtain covers both the woman and Shiryen, protecting them from the lava river. However, it wasn't easy to get rid of this flaming river. She was temporarily confined. She glared at Dragon Lizard's head and found two small dots with a human shape. Unexpectedly, they were Tu Shirchi and his wife Yun. At this moment, they were looking at her, their faces conveying nothing positive. Her bright eyes scanned quickly around to find Sing. She saw Helter-Skelter Sing flying to the massive crocodile and Minghong. Now, he had 7 brutal souls congregated. However, 5 of them were dying and their bodies were shrinking to a third of its original size. The 5 dying brutal souls were the ones following Sing to the ground to kill Dragon Lizard's true body. Evidently, Sing was very injured. He couldn't get what he wanted, and he was severely wounded. Dragon Lizard bother, why do you have to do this? Sing's eyes sparkled. He was pale and bleeding at his mouth, stomach, and back. He sat on the head of the crocodile and said darkly, You, Tu Shirchi, and Yun ambushed me to wound me. So what? I'm the So clan's commander. Do you dare to kill me? Do you want your Dragon Lizard clan to be hunted down to the last member? You think the mysterious Sky Clan can protect your clan? Dragon Lizard. I'm not interested in the conflict between you and the Soul Clan. I don't want to trade with you anymore. I just want to leave this place. Why did you stop me? Do you want to turn our Phantom Clan into your enemy too? Do you think you can endure that? The masked woman from the Phantom Clan was trapped inside the streaming lava in the void. Her bright eyes were cold as she shouted. At this moment, many aliens from the small clans discreetly moved away. They knew that the current situation wasn't something they could engage in. However, some of them still hid nearby or observed from a distance. Those warriors were real experts at 2nd or 3rd sky of Immortal Realm. Perhaps their clans couldn't resist the Soul Clan, Mysterious Sky Clan, or Phantom Clan. However, they personally had the power and qualifications to fight against Forefather Dragon Lizard and Sing. Many of them were advancing quietly and taking off from their asteroids, which were now a part of the Sea of Asteroids. Discreetly, they approached the masked woman. They paid attention to Shiryen and tried to capture Shiryen from the masked woman. He was their chance to break through the territory ancestor realm. Drop Shiryen and I'll let you go. I will also give you an immortal pellet. Forefather Dragon Lizard's true body thundered. His dark red eyes were as big as stars, gazing at the masked woman. Then, his massive head turned to Sing and he roared, Sing. Anybody can leave but you. This time, even if I have to use all that I have, I must kill you. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dragon Lizard's massive claws rose and grabbed a mountain-sized asteroid that he threw at Sing. That asteroid was black and rigid with energy from his body. It could even smash a small-sized planet. His giant claw could even shadow the light from the horizon, and it threatened terrifyingly people. Sing wore a cold and dark face. You don't really appreciate kindness. The massive crocodile underneath him roared and swallowed the 5 dying souls. Instantly, its body and power had increased by 3 times. The brutal soul in the crocodile form slowly became real matter. At this moment, the giant crocodile looked as if it was made of black iron. A dark and sinister aura flew out of the beast. Sing controlled the massive crocodile to use its rigid body to shield the asteroid. Its body then sent many sparks into the void. It had become real. Kill him, Sing shouted. The massive crocodile roared at Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body. Sing sneered, took out a bell, and shook it hard. Crack! Crack! The massive asteroids underneath cracked. The Soul Clan's soul refining cauldron got out of the ground, flew up, and floated above Sing's head. The three-legged cauldron was as big as a mountain. It slowly spun above Sing's head. So many mysterious symbols twinkled. They then transformed into countless magical souls. The malicious aura from those symbols was slowly condensing. Hey, let's discuss a little. Sing suddenly turned to the phantom masked woman. You and I join hands to deal with Dragon Lizard and the mysterious Sky Clan. Then, you take the kid. I want Dragon Lizard's and 2 Shirchi's lives. I also want the girl accompanying that kid. You will receive the 2 immortal pellets from Dragon Lizard. What do you think? Hearing him, Forefather Dragon Lizard was outraged. 2 Shirchi's mind shivered. The masked woman from the Phantom Clan had her eyes brighten as she giggled. Good suggestion. I'm interested. Well, Forefather Dragon Lizard isn't letting me go. I'll stay then. Her face turned cold as she hissed, Sing, you deal with Forefather Dragon Lizard. I'll help you defeat 2 Shirchi and his wife. Sing was excited. He couldn't help but grin fiendishly. Sing was 1 level weaker than Dragon Lizard, and he got hit while fighting underground. Even if he got the Soul Refining Cauldron, an absolute beginning divine weapon, he couldn't deal with 2 Shirchi and his wife. However, if the masked woman of the Phantom Clan helped him, he could overturn the situation. He had checked and knew that this masked woman had a profound realm and her competence was deeply immeasurable. If they joined hands, he could take Dragon Lizard to nurture the Soul Refining Cauldron, which was the promise he made to the expert in his clan. Also, he could use Audrey to enter Desolate territory and refine Desolate. If he had to let Shiryen go to exchange for many things, this business was still going to be excellent for him. Chapter 1395, A Matter of Life or Death. Chapter 1395, A Matter of Life or Death. The masked woman frankly agreed with Sing's suggestion. Forefather Dragon Lizard and 2 Shirchi were so tense. Soul change. Sing shook the bell and shouted. The absolute beginning symbols on the Soul Refining Cauldron were like twinkling stars. They suddenly radiated beautiful, divine lights. Those tadpole symbols flew out of the surface of the cauldron and stuck on the giant brutal soul in a crocodile shape. This brutal soul was extremely intimidating when it was alive. Sing had spent hundreds of years refining it and making it the leader of the 7 great brutal souls. It was related to Sing's life, so it was almost his life treasure. The massive crocodile had absorbed the absolute beginning symbols from the Soul Refining Cauldron and its body had materialized. It had been strengthened several times. Unexpectedly, it was almost as strong as Forefather Dragon Lizard's true body. The crocodile faced the sky and roared indignantly. The dark clouds stormed thickly. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed inside the dark clouds as if someone had just summoned demons. Forefather Dragon Lizard looked stern. His scarlet eyes were like eccentric stars with a bloodthirsty aura. Flame refine the earth. Dragon Lizard roared. Lava spurted out from his scaled body. The lava was scorching hot and flooding the entire sea of asteroids as if the ocean had submerged the entire continent. Dragon Lizard hovered in the middle of the boiling lava and created high waves that attacked the giant crocodile. The giant crocodile howled. The torrential dark clouds above its head were like a collapsing mountain. Lightning beams danced inside the dark clouds and struck the lava sea. The giant crocodile forcefully plunged, entangling and tearing Forefather Dragon Lizard's real body. The 2 fearsome, dangerous beasts attacked each other fiercely. They had stirred up the entire place and affected the sea domain of nihility. The asteroids were struck away and flying in many directions. Many warriors hiding in the dark hadn't expected such attacks. The lava covered them and put them on fire. Shortly, they became coals. The warriors with profound realms had retreated earlier. They continued to stay concealed and watched the situation. As Sing began to attack them, 2 Shirchi and Ye Yun stood on Forefather Dragon Lizard's head and continuously muttered to him. They told him about the magical features of the cauldron. Also, they were accumulating energy to counterattack Sing. Sing's brutal souls were his source of power. The energies from his body and power Upanishads were poured into the massive crocodile unceasingly. Sing was floating under the soul-refining cauldron, gathering his energy and using the bell to control it. The soul-refining cauldron was an absolute beginning divine weapon. It was the life treasure of an expert in his soul clan. He couldn't promote the power of the soul-refining cauldron ultimately, so he could only control it by using the bell. Also, it could help increase the power of the crocodile too. He was lucky that he had begged the territory ancestor expert in his clan to borrow the soul-refining cauldron. Otherwise, he would have been hurt more severely underground. Then, he would have had to run away directly. Friend from Phantom Clan. It's your turn. Sing controlled the soul-refining cauldron and shouted. The bell in his hand jingled clearly. The soul filaments flew out and fell on the massive ancient crocodile. The crocodile was boosted one more time. And now it was even as strong as Dragon Lizard's real body. Minghong, the brutal soul, was kneeling underneath Sing and releasing his power to protect him in case someone ambushed him while he was controlling the soul-refining cauldron. I didn't want to get involved, but you forced me. I'm sorry. The phantom masked woman pitched her voice and laughed. One hand of her held Shi Yan while the other pointed at the void. Then, so many pure white lotuses flew out and scattered from her white hand. Those snow-white lotuses bloomed and became as big as an entire room. They were crystal-like and sparkling like most perfect masterpieces. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Calm. The snow-white lotuses slowly fell. The scorching red area was covered with an icy mist. After one lotus had descended, the world here became even colder. Gradually, 18 massive, snow-white lotuses aligned in the void and created a bigger lotus, which then grumblingly pressed down on Tu Shurchi and his wife. The ice power Upanishad had frosted the entire world. For the time being, the whole place was dead silent. The burning flame, the furious explosions, and the shaking earth were halted. The world was now frozen. Everything stopped instantly. Frosty Galaxy. The masked woman became so chilled, her eyes rigid like ice. At this moment, her cold, malevolent characteristics were revealed. All of her charming, seducing gestures were just a disguise. The ruthless, heartless ice power Upanishad was her real face. The cold energy emitted from her could chill people to the bone. Shi Yan was enchanted by her seducing technique, and he had fallen into a dreamy scene where he couldn't recognize his surroundings. Because of her real power, the ice power, bursting out, he felt an icy energy beam emerge in his head. That icy energy was like a cold lightning bolt, which flashed and disappeared into his sea of consciousness. Although it had happened in just a short moment, the intensive light had shone on Shi Yan's mind and woken him up. In that short moment, he had resolutely used the space power Upanishad to seal his eyes, ears, mouth, and nostrils. He used his co-soul to trigger the power Upanishads. Instantly, the devouring power Upanishad appeared as a black hole in his tier of power Upanishads and shook it. At this moment, the graceful, sexy women were still dancing in his head. They served him and treated him tenderly to drown him deeply in his dream. Swallow. As soon as the black hole emerged, so many attractive, young ladies in his brain had become shining pink lights that disappeared into the black hole. The seducing technique that had controlled his mind was cleared quickly. Shi Yan's mind was sound and back in just a blink of an eye. He had used the space power Upanishad to close his eyes, ears, mouth, and nostrils. He had also sealed his sea of consciousness and separated his body. As the masked woman was using her other powers, she didn't recognize his abnormal condition. She didn't realize that he had woken up. One arm of her was still holding him as she was arrogantly attacking the enemies in the void. Her opponents were Tu Shurchi and his wife Yun. The massive snow lotus created by many smaller ones had covered Tu Shurchi and Yun. It looked like they were confined inside a bowl. The rainbow light protection on Tu Shurchi and Yun helped them resist against the cold energy and move around inside the snow lotus. The masked woman observed the snow lotus. She concluded that this treasure was enough to hold back Tu Shirchi and his wife for a while. She pulled herself together and turned around to see Dragon Lizard wrestling with Sing's crocodile brutal soul. As Sing was continuously shaking the bell to send more energy from the soul-refining cauldron to the crocodile, Dragon Lizard wasn't in a good situation. The soul-refining cauldron was an absolute beginning divine weapon. It belonged to the class of top treasures in this vast universe. Although Sing couldn't actually use its strongest abilities, he could trouble Dragon Lizard a lot by using this technique to send endless energy to the giant crocodile. Seeing the snow lotus of the masked woman confine Tu Shirchi and Yayun, Sing was also scared. Luckily, he didn't act arrogantly or start a conflict with that masked woman. Swoosh! Swoosh! The tearing wind sounds echoed around the place as if someone was running discreetly. At this moment, Dragon Lizard's star was a sea of asteroids. The island-sized asteroids floated in the void, but they weren't really far from each other. Between some asteroids, the gap was just as big as a slit. If they had some dark schemes, as long as they were careful, they could hide in this area pretty well. The masked woman from the Phantom Clan had a cold and arrogant look. A flow of cold energy expanded from her soft body. The void around her made crack sounds. The entire void was frozen. Two silhouettes appeared under the asteroids on her left and right. They were exposed because of the frozen space. Defeng and Dulé. Ice cracks. The masked woman shouted. Two cold lights shot out of her mouth. The icy light was like cold sabers with endless energy that thrust into Defeng's and Dulé's chests. Thud. The icy light stabbed them and then pierced through their bodies. The blood on Defeng's and Dulé's chests was frozen, but they weren't confined anymore. They freely fell on the rocks underneath. Their stealthy ambush failed. The masked woman sneered continuously. She raked through the area and said coldly, "I must have this kid. If anyone tries to take him, prepare to die." The warriors hiding in the dark went numb. They felt like sea monsters struggling on the shore. Defeng and Dulé had fatal wounds. The others didn't know whether they were still alive or not. Perhaps these two warriors on Dragon Lizard's side couldn't get up again. The masked woman from the Phantom Clan had finally shown her real competence. Now, the others knew that the Phantom Clan didn't have only the mind technique to establish an alliance with Sing. Yuan Emo didn't retreat as he was told. He stayed far from the battlefield and watched the masked woman show her supernatural power. He was completely chilled. To this masked woman, he still had a beam of desire. He had tried really hard to hide it with the hope that one day they could fondle and cuddle. Anyway, he didn't dare to keep this thought anymore. He didn't dare to linger either. He sighed and said to his tribal members, "We should move now. Immediately. We can't get involved in this battle." He took the members of the Water Tribe and left the place. Finally, he understood why the Phantom Clan could become one of the 7 great clans. They had more than the enchanting technique. Shiryen woke up. He didn't open his eyes and just used dark energy to observe the situation. The dark energy joined his soul consciousness. In that moment, he felt like he had so many eyes that could see his surroundings. Strangely, when he used dark energy to survey, the masked woman didn't realize anything even though she was really close to him. He was so surprised while trying to find a way to change the situation. Tu Shirchi and Yayun were at third sky of Immortal Realm, and they were still a distance away from the Territory Ancestor Realm. However, this woman was like Sing at the peak of Immortal Realm. They were just one step away from that realm. Tu Shirchi and Yayun were hurt by Sing before. And now, the difference between their realms had helped the masked woman subdue them. From the current situation, only the Phantom Woman was able to suffocate Tu Shirchi and his wife. On the other side, Sing with the divine weapon from the absolute beginning had gradually gained the upper hand. Shiryen could see that since Sing was severely wounded, if Shiryen struck a close blow, Sing would lose his fighting competence and he could even get killed. Anyway, Sing was cautious. Minghong underneath him had prepared to attack anyone who came near. Tu Shirchi and his wife and forefather Dragon Lizard were in a bad situation. They were in danger too. Changing this situation had become a tough and difficult challenge to Shiryen. Chapter 1396, World Within World. Chapter 1396, World Within World. Dragon Lizard, Tu Shirchi, and his wife were suppressed by Sing and the Masked Woman respectively. From the current situation, if Dragon Lizard, Tu Shirchi, and his wife didn't have any external help, they couldn't change the situation. Shiryan squeezed his brain for a solution. In the dark, the experts from the small clans were discreetly approaching and staying by the Masked Woman. They still thought that the Masked Woman was the key door to break because their main target, Shiryan, was in her hand. The massive snow lotus was crystal-like and shining, but it was so icy. Tu Shirchi and his wife were confined inside and trying to break it with their best powers. The Masked Woman of the Phantom Clan had to focus on controlling the lotus and watching Shiryan at the same time. Her situation wasn't really good. Thus, the warriors who were self-confident still kept their eyes on her and waited for the chance to steal Shiryan and run away within one attempt. In their eyes, Shiryan was a meaty cauldron that they could use to understand dark energy and advance to an extreme realm, the Territory Ancestor Realm. Shiryan had sealed his senses and used his soul consciousness made of dark energy to search around. Shortly after, he found 4 alien experts like venomous snakes approaching. The 4 of them were at Third Sky of Immortal Realm, the same realm as Tu Shirchi and Yayun. They were the warriors with the highest realm among the onlookers, and they were also the most patient ones. They had hidden right from the start until now. Harumph! The phantom masked woman snorted as she recognized those people's intentions. Her soft body swayed like a water snake and released a soul-stirring, attractive power. Illusions of sexy ladies with bodies that could make people's noses bleed appeared, moaning with heavy breathing and going toward the 4/3 sky of Immortal Realm experts. At the same time, Tu Shirchi and his wife inside the Crystal Lotus suddenly gathered all of their powers and struck hard. Their energy accumulated and formed bunches of radiantly light, forcefully stabbing a petal of the lotus. The soft body of the masked woman shook. Her bright eyes turned cold as if she was finally enraged. At the same time, Shiryan suddenly burst out his brutal, formidable energy. He swayed away from her control quickly. A spinning fantasy boundary stone appeared and ballooned in the wind. After several seconds, it became a blank, white world. That world acted like a giant hand that snatched over the masked woman and the 4 experts under her enchanting technique. The 4 of them were pulled into the new world created by the fantasy boundary stone. A white light flashed. Shiryan got rid of her grip. He didn't hesitate for even a beat. His energy rose again when he flung another fantasy boundary stone. The fantasy boundary stone received his god power and became a whole new world that was still a white, blank space, but much bigger than the previous one. Shortly after, it had converted the world and confined the masked woman and the 4 stealthy experts. Their world was shrouded by another world. The 2 fantasy boundary stones had created 2 worlds. The bigger one covered the smaller one, and the smaller one imprisoned the masked women and 4 furtive experts. The 2 fantasy worlds had weakened the connection between the masked woman and her snow lotus. The snow lotus didn't have a continuous energy source to strengthen its imprisonment. Tu Shirchi and his wife finally got rid of it. They looked at Shiryan, their eyes surprised and excited. Shiryan gave them a slight nod and raised one finger to point at Sing. Tu Shirchi and Yayun understood immediately. They didn't say anything and turned into 2 light beams that headed toward Sing. Shiryan was floating in the void, his face extremely stern. A flow of his soul consciousness seeped into the words that the fantasy boundary stones had created to find even the smallest commotion. The fantasy boundary stone could create a world in just a blink of an eye, but this world wasn't real, and it could exist for only a short time. Shiryan could explode that world, and the energy created after the space shattered was ultimately so terrifying that even Immortal Realm experts couldn't stand it. However, as Shiryan had just entered the Immortal Realm, he couldn't build strong barriers for his fantasy world. Thus, when he triggered the space to explode it, he couldn't really hurt her. Anyway, he calculated something else. He was waiting for the masked woman and the 4 experts imprisoned inside the world to break one world from the inside first. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Calm inside the immense, dreamy world, the Phantom Woman and the four-third sky of Immortal Realm experts looked strange when their sinister eyes observed their surroundings. Their realms were high, but Shuryen could ambush them and confine them in this world. It was like a boat that capsized in a narrow ditch. Actually, any one of them could break the boundaries of this world. They didn't do that because they knew that the spatial explosion that was going to occur when they broke the boundary was going to be very formidable. They knew that they couldn't get out of this world intact. "You guys dare compete with our Phantom Clan?" The masked woman's voice was icy cold, and so were her eyes. She was releasing her soul consciousness to check the thickness of the boundary. This world was like a glass ball with spatial barriers as walls. The thicker the wall was, the harder it was to break. Once it exploded, the space shockwaves created from the explosion was going to be very intimidating. She surveyed and scolded, mocking the other four as they kept silent as if they were deaf and mute. No one retorted. It was because their realms weren't as high as this masked woman. They needed to stay quiet so their mind could check the thickness of the spatial barriers. "That kid is too cunning. Anyway, he's not strong enough. This spatial barrier is too thin." Dozens of seconds later, the bright eyes of the woman showed her joy. She couldn't help but smile gracefully. While laughing, her jade-like hand rose to the void. The cold energy from her brutally tore the barrier as if there were countless ice sabers. Shuryen stayed outside the bigger world. His body shook, and then he concentrated on sending the soul consciousness into the smaller world inside. When the ice blades attacked the small world, it cracked and was about to explode. At the same time, Shuryen triggered the bigger world outside. The warriors cultivating space power Upanishad could see the world outside like shattering glass with so many fine cracks. Boom, boom. Two explosions happened almost at the same time. The smaller world inside was shattered by the masked woman. Pieces of broken space shot outward. Also, Shuryen had crushed the bigger world outside and sent pieces of sharp broken space inward. The two worlds exploded at the same time and pressed on each other. At that moment, the lethal power of the explosions rocketed several times. Boom, boom, boom. The unceasing explosion boomed in front of Shuryen. It was like the space had collapsed. The void cracked open. Instantly, the earth-destroying space energy fluctuated. Shuryen was forced backward. He was frightened when he saw the shockwaves when the big world and the small world exploded at the same time. Even warriors with space power Upanishad like him couldn't endure such an energy attack. If they were shrouded, there was going to be no chance to survive. Boom, 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 boom. Four bodies exploded. It was like a meatball that burst. Then, so many space sabers minced them into blood and meat. Their soul altars were gone altogether. The four experts that wanted to use Shuryen to break through to the territory ancestor realm from their third sky of Immortal Realm were blown up. Their host's souls were all gone. Shuryen gawked and dropped his jaw as he couldn't believe his eyes. Under the world-destroying shockwaves, a petal of a massive snow lotus flew around, and so many space sabers had gashed it. That lotus petal carried a naked body that could be deemed perfectly sexy. The flawless, porcelain body with two round, ample breasts, a delicate waist, a snow-like rear, and slender thighs. She appeared with exquisite and beautiful features like a masterpiece. Instinctively, Shuryen looked at the void underneath. He found the massive snow lotus that had confined Tu Shurchi and his wife had disappeared. Shuryen didn't know when the masked woman had taken the snow lotus. When the two worlds detonated, she already had the lotus protect her from the fatal energy attack. Although her clothes and the fearsome mask were broken, she wasn't dead, yet as something turned into smoke. The snow lotus withered. The woman stood in the middle of the flower, her skin like snow and her bones like ice. She was flawless, and both her body and appearance were the most magnificent in this world. However, her look was so cold, which was gazing at Shuryen. Shuryen felt shivers down his spine under her gaze. He felt anxious as if he was shrouded in an endless coldness. Boom, boom, boom. Shuryen couldn't help but turn around to watch when more explosions could be heard. He then saw some ice sculpture exploding. Those ice sculptures were alien warriors who had a dark scheme. Their realms weren't high, though. They were frozen and then killed by the woman's wrath. They might have been murdered because they had seen something they shouldn't have. When Shuryen recognized something was wrong, besides Dragon Lizard, Sing, Tu Shurchi and his wife, who were engaging in a fierce battle, all the others on Dragon Lizard continent were killed. This savage woman from the Phantom clan had killed all the warriors who hadn't left the place. She had even killed a member of the Water Tribe who stayed to observe and get information. Swoosh! A pure white silky long robe shrouded the woman. Her jade-like, naked legs slowly descended in the middle of the shriveled lotus pod. Her eyes, which were filled with the coldness of an icy mountain, didn't leave Shuryen or blink once. The strange soul energy emitted from her eyes. Shortly after, Shuryen's soul altar made crack sounds. Unexpectedly, his soul altar was freezing. Just with a look, she could even freeze the soul altar. Her power Upanishad was extremely terrifying. Your face and body are perfect. I feel like I've used the luck of my 3 lives that I can still be alive after seeing your naked body. Shuddering, Shuryen gazed at the woman and spoke. Then, he urged the power of the heaven flame. The scorching heaven flames began to burn and move around his soul altar. The cold energy in his soul was eliminated. The heaven flame continued to move around his body. He gradually resumed his normal conditions. He glared at the woman while his body became vague and invisible. The bright eyes of the phantom woman were so cold. The massive snow lotus around her dissolved and created smaller snow lotuses, which revolved like snowballs around her. She was ashen when she put on the fearsome mask one more time to cover her extremely stunning appearance. "You can't hide," muttered the masked woman. Chapter 1397. Turn the situation around. Chapter 1397. Turn the situation around. Sing. You must die today. Tu Shurchi and his wife were yelling and attacking Sing. However, Minghong stopped them all. At this moment, Sing was helter-skelter. He couldn't focus on controlling the soul-refining cauldron. Tu Shurchi was holding a thunder hammer. When he raised it, lightning flashed and thunder boomed. It was the archenemy of brutal souls. Even with Sing's energy poured into him, Minghong didn't dare to resist Tu Shurchi forcefully. Seeing his thunder hammer hack at him, he hurried to dodge. Minghong's body sizzled and smoked when lightning from the hammer struck him. Sing didn't have the power to control the soul-refining cauldron anymore. As his anger rose, he decided to risk his life. Souls congregate. The departed souls and ghosts underneath him, controlled by his power Upanishad, congregated and created 2 spirit snakes that coiled around his arms. He roared indignantly and aimed at Tu Shurchi. He opened his arms and the spirit snakes danced, swiftly avoiding Tu Shurchi's hammer and worming toward Yayun's body. Yayun was holding a brocade flag that was embroidered with many interesting palaces. When she waved the flag once, a palace emerged like an illusion and attacked Sing. Her palaces seemed to be able to confine the opponent. How do I kill Sing? A thought popped up in Minghong's soul. It was Shuryen's voice. The Soul Clan cultivates souls. When his soul altar is gone, Sing will die tragically. The brutal souls will swallow him. I can swallow his host's soul too. Minghong was still fighting against Tu Shurchi, but the soul messages were delivered in his soul, so they weren't affected. Swish! A blood streak appeared on Sing's nape and stabbed forward. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Calm Sing's face went cold. He flipped his hands and so many souls like a cloud of locusts flew out and pounded on the bloody sword. Bang! A horde of souls impacted with the bloody sword. After that, the blood halo on the sword dimmed, and even the eyes on the sword became a little puzzled. This bloody sword was the very first secret treasures that Bloodthirsty got. It was refined from the spine of an immortal demon expert. In desolate territory, it had never failed. Not many divine weapons could resist this brutal sword. However, in this sea domain of nihility, the blood sword failed at its debut. The souls that Sing had refined had different auras, including filthiness, corrosiveness, and acid. Once the treasures of weapons got affected, they couldn't strike with their best. Although the bloody sword was keen, it was also affected and couldn't show its brutality. Roar! Then, Dragon Lizard roared and shook around the entire place. He had finally stopped his defeating position. He stomped on the giant crocodile, pounding and tearing it. The giant crocodile no longer received energy from Sing through the soul-refining cauldron. It wasn't intimidating anymore. Forefather Dragon Lizard had hit it hard so that he even punched the souls out of it. Under such a given circumstance, the crocodile can't endure for a long time. Sing's last brutal soul was Minghong, who was also subdued under Tu Shirchi and Yayun's attacks. He couldn't really show his savagery. Sing was in a worse situation. Shiryan had ambushed him, which had enraged him a lot. He looked at the phantom masked woman from a distance and shouted, "Please support me." The snow lotus wildly twirled around the masked woman. One of them suddenly detached and hit a spot in the void where no one hovered. Thud! A silhouette appeared. It was Shiryan. Shiryan was dizzy after the hit. His entire body was also frosty and frozen. The masked woman said nothing as she rose her arm to pull Shiryan. She didn't bat an eye at Sing. "Sing!" Shiryan shouted all of a sudden after he reappeared. Sing was startled. He didn't know anything when he looked at Shiryan. He was shaken immediately as he found mountains and seas of corpses in Shiryan's eyes. Bleeding, cut limbs were flooding toward him with so many brutal thoughts and crazy, bloodthirsty intentions. Sing was lost quickly. Because the masked woman had slaughtered everywhere, the sea of asteroids that were previously Dragon Lizard continent now had hundreds of corpses hovering. Shiryan had guided the resentful energy and dead energy from those corpses toward Sing's inner world while staying invisible. If Sing was at his peak condition, he wouldn't have gotten ambushed because he also cultivated soul techniques. But Dragon Lizard and Tu Shirchi had wounded him when they fought underground. At this moment, all of his brutal souls had left his body, and Tu Shirchi and his wife were attacking him continuously. It was the time when he was weakest. Thus, the resentful energy from Shiryan's eyes had finally smashed his mind and sent him into insanity. Tu Shirchi and his wife Yayun had been waiting for this for a long time. Of course, they wouldn't let him slide away. They both stormed toward Sing. Strangely, Minghong, Sing's brutal soul, didn't stop them. At the moment Sing's soul broke and the giant crocodile was weakened too. Forefather Dragon Lizard seized the chance and hit it harder, making the beast scream unceasingly. Everything was deadly smooth. Tu Shirchi held the big hammer and battered on the crown of Sing's head. Sing's head exploded. The brutal soul Minghong was accumulating energy for another attack. He suddenly and heartlessly backfired Sing. He had seized the opportunity and swallowed Sing's host's soul in one bite. After that, he urged his power Upanishad to absorb the dying giant crocodile. Swoosh! 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 Many departed souls were guided toward Minghong. After he had swallowed Sing, he became the host's soul. When Sing's head exploded, he got his freedom and he had even backfired Sing. Minghong didn't hesitate and turned into a cluster of a dark cloud that brought so many souls that Sing had refined away. After a flash, he disappeared. Everything happened so fast that Tu Shirchi couldn't react. He only saw Sing's head explode and many departed souls and ghosts gather by Minghong. Then, Minghong, the brutal soul, left quickly. "Don't let him go." Forefather Dragon Lizard thundered. A humanoid body appeared in its true body and chased after Minghong. "It's Sing! He wants to escape. If we give him time, he will recover soon. Kill him now." Forefather Dragon Lizard didn't know what had happened, so he thought that Sing was running away after using some secret technique of the Soul Clan. He wanted to uproot this threat. Even Tu Shirchi and Yayun were bewildered. They thought that Minghong, the brutal soul, was Sing. They could never think that he was just a brutal soul that had swallowed the host soul. Tu Shirchi and his wife chased after Minghong together with Forefather Dragon Lizard. The masked woman was surprised. She didn't know what was going on over there. However, she immediately turned to Shiryan. Shiryan felt cold. He immediately moved further away without any hesitation. While his thoughts changing, the space around him rippled. He wanted to gather with Audrey and Evelyn's group. However, as he was about to change his direction, his visage changed. Shiryen saw Minghong flying toward Audrey. When Shiryen sensed Audrey, he found Minghong bring so many souls in a black cluster that entered Audrey's soul altar. He understood it immediately. Minghong had seized the chance to backfire and swallow Sing. He had become the host soul and gathered countless souls and ghosts that Sing had refined. He wanted to escape, but Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shirchi had aimed at him. As he knew that Audrey was safe, he decided to choose her as his shelter. I am Minghong. I want to fuse with you right now. I need your help to escape those people's pursuit. A voice arose in Audrey's head. Audrey was stunned when she found so many souls appear in her sea of consciousness. The power of those souls made her shiver in fear. You know I won't hurt you. I'm telling you a method. If you do it right, all the souls that Sing had refined will call you master. It's your destiny. And it's also our Imperial Dark Clan's destiny. You should do it immediately, urged Minghong. Audrey was resolute. Tell me the method. Open your mind to receive my inheritance. It's the secret technique that Sing of the Soul Clan used to control us. A wisp of Shiryan's soul consciousness still stayed in Minghong's soul. Thus, he knew the conversation between Minghong and Audrey. While Minghong was giving Audrey secret techniques of the Soul Clan, Shiryan understood that Audrey's fortune had come. With Minghong's inheritance, Audrey's achievement in the future wasn't going to be less than Sing's. The supernatural power Upanishad and the strange energy of the Soul Clan came from the brutal souls that they could tame. Today, Minghong had become the host soul and he had seized Sing's attainment for many years. He used them all to strengthen Audrey. Audrey became one of the strongest warriors of Imperial Dark Tribe, and she had a chance to be even stronger than Minghao. It accelerated to this because Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shirchi were chasing after Minghong. They thought that he was Sing, so they weren't going to let him go. Only fusing with someone could save him from this fatal pursuit. We will separate now. Let's meet at the Sea of Annihilation. The Phantom Clan woman is after me. I'm afraid that Forefather Dragon Lizard also has some dark scheme for me. I'm leaving now. You're staying in a spatial blind spot. Don't move. After you've fused with Minghong, find a chance to leave. Shiryan's soul message echoed in Audrey's and Minghong's souls. After that, he unilaterally cut off the connection. Then, Audrey couldn't get distracted. She had to fuse with Minghong's soul, so she wasn't free to do much. The masked woman was chasing after Shiryan, and he couldn't find Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shirchi to ask for help. Shiryan was afraid that Forefather Dragon Lizard would act like Sing and the masked woman. They wanted his soul to get a chance to break through to Territory Ancestor Realm. Thus, he had to leave now. Using Heavenly Fantasy Star Compass, he continuously urged the space power Upanishad to cross through the voids in just a blink of an eye. When the warriors with space power Upanishad wanted to run away, they had advantages that no one could compare to. At this moment, he was using these advantages and moving like a beam of starlight that people couldn't locate. He flashed and then disappeared, shifting through different spatial blind spots or corners. It was really tough for the masked woman of the Phantom Clan, even though she had reached peak of Immortal Realm. She had to use a lot of efforts and energy to locate Shiryan. Her spirit, soul, and chi had been massively used. You can't hide. She gritted her teeth and hated Shiryan to her core. She had even hurt her soul to find Shiryan. She had to reduce him into ashes. Chapter 1398, Soul as the Sea. Chapter 1398, Soul as the Sea, _. On a brown-gray asteroid, Audrey sat with her eyes closed. The fierce soul energy rippled through her. Evelyn's, Adam's, and Masha, the three members of the Heavenly Eye clan gathered by her, their faces stern. They were hesitant on whether they should help her or not. They had witnessed the moment when Minghong, the brutal soul, entered Audrey's brain. They also saw so many dark clouds get into her body. At this moment, Audrey's soul energy was fluctuating strangely. They knew that something was wrong. They thought that Audrey was possessed. Sing had tamed that brutal soul. He has Sing's power Upanishad, said Evelyn's when he was about to accumulate energy and attack Audrey. I'm afraid we're not an equal opponent to that brutal soul. Adams wore a panicked face. He turned around to watch and was startled. Oh, that's Forefather Dragon Lizard. In between the chaotic energy waves that stirred the sea of asteroids in front of them, Dragon Lizard's humanoid clone, Tu Shi and his wife Yayun appeared. They were searching around with worried countenances. However, Audrey and the others were hiding inside a spatial blind spot that Shiryen had tried hard to find. Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shi couldn't see them. Unless they quieted down their minds and used the soul consciousness to sense, they couldn't find Audrey's team in a short time. We can ask them to help, suggested Adams. Masha shook her head immediately. They will kill Audrey to end potential trouble. We can't do that. They didn't know that Audrey and Shiryen knew Tu Shi. What should we do? She can't resist the brutal soul. Once it possesses her body, we will be in trouble. Adams felt a flame burn his heart. He pondered and then said, how about we leave first and ignore them? We could do that. Evelyn's hesitated for a while, but he agreed with this suggestion. Because even if they stayed, they couldn't help Audrey and the brutal soul could kill them later. After the three of them leave, we will go. Otherwise, we'll get busted. Masha sighed and then looked at Audrey. Sorry, we can't help you. You have to depend only on yourself. I hope you can escape the bind. Dragon Lizard, Tu Shi, and his wife searched around the area and then left hurriedly. Adams and the other two didn't linger. They quietly left the asteroid. After they had flown away, they were stunned when they turned around. There was nothing behind them. It looked like the asteroid they had been sitting for a long time on didn't exist. They were speechless as they knew how special the shelter they had taken was. Also, they understood Shiryan's profound space power Upanishad more deeply. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after they had left, Dragon Lizard and Tu Shi changed their direction and returned to the area. Dragon Lizard immediately stood in their ways. He opened his mouth and sprayed a lava barrier, keeping Adams and the other two inside. Forefather Dragon Lizard looked at them with malicious eyes. He snorted and pointed at them while talking to Tu Shi and his wife. The brutal soul, which is Sing, has flown to this area. He must occupy one person to avoid our checking. We've searched around. This area has no aura of living beings. Only the three of them who had just gotten out of nowhere. Adams changed his countenance. We rather kill the wrong ones than let the right one escape, shouted Forefather Dragon Lizard. Tu Shi and his wife frowned. They knew that Adams and the other two knew Shiryen and Audrey. But they also thought that Sing could hide in the soul of Adams, Masha, or Evelyn's. Although that brutal soul had run quickly, it couldn't get rid of them in just a blink, unless it depended on someone's soul. It had fused with someone to avoid their searching. Because of the Phantom Clan masked woman's massacre, the hiding warriors were all killed. In this dead silent sea of asteroids, Adams, Evelyn's, and Masha had strangely survived. Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shi thought that if Sing could escape their searching, he must have entered one of these three. They didn't know that Audrey was still hiding in the spatial blind spot where they couldn't sense or see. These three. Sigh, never mind. You take care of them. Tu Shi hesitated for a while. He looked begrudging, but he agreed with Forefather Dragon Lizard. They would rather kill the wrong ones than let the right one go. Lava dissolves. Forefather Dragon Lizard hissed, and the lava barriers slowly gathered and covered Adams, Evelyn's, and Masha. The three of them cried mournfully. Adams knew that if he didn't tell them the truth, they would be killed tragically here. No, no, no. It's not like that. No. Adams cried crazily. Forefather Dragon Lizard was surprised, and he lowered his voice. What? We saw that brutal soul. He didn't occupy us. He didn't affect us either. The one he has possessed is right over there. Adams pointed at Audrey's location. Naked eyes couldn't see that area. It's a spatial blind spot. We just got out of it. Wait a minute. Tu Shi shouted. Forefather Dragon Lizard retracted his arms. He hesitated for a while and then released his soul consciousness at the peak of Immortal Realm to search. Then, his scarlet eyes brightened. Two strange light shots toward the area Adams had pointed out. Swish! Just like a rock wall or space that eroded, the hidden asteroid and Audrey sitting on it appeared. On the gray-brown asteroid, Audrey was sitting cross-legged. Innumerable souls and ghosts like layers of mountain ranges appeared around her. Above her head, countless dark clouds of souls hovered like black stars. So many departed souls and ghosts were surrounding Audrey while she was wearing a faint, indifferent countenance and had her eyes closed. A minute vortex appeared at her glabella. The vortex was crazily revolving and drawing a lot of souls in it. Adams was so surprised. He thought that Audrey was already possessed and she would be killed soon. At this moment, he didn't feel guilty as he thought that Audrey was already dead. He showed her location, which was also a way to take revenge for her death. A clear soul appeared from the vortex in Audrey's glabella between so many ghosts and departed souls. It was her host's soul. Gotcha. Forefather Dragon Lizard sneered. As soon as he saw the soul, he didn't think too much and raised one hand to strike. Yeah, Ayun suddenly screamed ear-piercingly. Hold on. Forefather Dragon Lizard darkened his face. It's not right. She's not Sing. Too sure she reacted and pointed at the host's soul flying out of the vortex. Her host's soul is still alive. She's not possessed. Otherwise, we should have seen Sing's soul there, not her host's soul. Forefather Dragon Lizard wasn't ignorant. He had just let his anger control his mind for a while. He was awakened when the other two reminded him. It's not like what we've thought. Too sure she rubbed his chin and pondered. Don't act rashly. We should wait and see here. After she's done, we will know what happened. Forefather Dragon Lizard thought for a while and then nodded. He didn't hurry to kill Audrey. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Audrey's host's soul vigorously flew out of her labella. It was like a wizard mumbling an incantation that ran directly into people's souls. Tens of thousands of souls floated by her. They were affected by the incantations, and they flew around before entering her head through her glabella. A corner of the soul sea appeared inside the vortex filled with souls. Audrey's host's soul was like a fishing net that covered all those souls. A fearsome, massive crocodile suddenly appeared underneath her. Dragon Lizard's face went cold as he tensed instantly. Too sure Chi hastily rose his hand to signal Dragon Lizard to calm down. Under the power of Audrey's incantations, the giant crocodile opened its mouth and released brutal souls that it had swallowed. They were 5 out of 7 brutal souls Sing had tamed. Audrey's host's soul stimulated them and made them enter the soul sea in her vortex. After the giant crocodile disappeared, many souls floating above Audrey's head suddenly changed into Minghong's appearance. Minghong, the brutal soul, had a pair of deep and stern eyes as he had his full consciousness. He hovered like a massive ghost behind Audrey and gazed at Dragon Lizard. A soul message was sent to Dragon Lizard. I swallowed Sing alive. Forefather Dragon Lizard was shaken hard. He shouted, What did you just say? I swallowed Sing. He's dead, Minghong said and then opened his mouth. Inside his giant, dark mouth, the others could see pieces of Sing's soul, which slowly melted down into smaller pieces. Oh gosh! Yayun screamed in fear. Sing had been brutal and arrogant for so many years. In the end, his brutal soul has swallowed him. That's karma. Too sure Chi was also surprised. So, Sing is dead now. Forefather Dragon Lizard wasn't certain. Too sure Chi and Yayun nodded. Forefather Dragon Lizard sighed, his face awkward. It's good that he's dead. We can save ourselves from a lot of trouble. Otherwise, all the members of the Soul Clan would have thought that they could hunt us down. Yeah, I hope that Sing's death will wake up the Soul Clan. They shouldn't be too frenzied. Too sure Chi and Yayun exchanged looks as they suddenly felt bitter. They understood the Soul Clan deeper than Forefather Dragon Lizard. They knew that the Soul Clan would never let this slip away easily. However, they didn't want to explain this to Forefather Dragon Lizard. The more the Soul Clan hated the Dragon Lizard clan, the more the Dragon Lizard clan had to depend on their clan. They had to take the same boat as the mysterious Sky Clan. It was the result that they had desired. They didn't discuss more and just watched Audrey and her changes. Chapter 1399, Fortune. Chapter 1399, Fortune. People were still suspicious. They didn't know why Minghong hadn't possessed Audrey after he had swallowed Sing. He let Audrey's host soul stay. It was against his common sense. With his power after swallowing Sing, he could become the leading soul of the 7 brutal souls. If he could take Audrey's body, even though he couldn't get back to his peak of power, at least he could regain his freedom. He wouldn't be bound to this woman. This made them think a lot. But they knew one thing. From now on, Audrey was the brutal soul's new master. The souls that Sing had spent years refining were now her fortune. As long as Audrey wasn't really ignorant, she had the potential to one day reach Sing's level when he was still alive. If Audrey had excellent innate talent, she was going to progress fast, and it was going to be hard to predict her future attainment. The Soul Clan was one of the 7 great clans anyway. Sing was the commander of the Soul Clan, and his understanding of soul power Upanishad was clear and profound. These things now benefited Audrey, and they were great nutrients for her growth. The others looked at Audrey, yearning and complimenting. Who is she? You know her? Forefather Dragon Lizard understood and asked in astonishment. Tu Shirchi and Yayun smiled. The kid who came to talk to you about the soul refining cauldron ambush is her man. Yeah, we've met. This little girl is nice too. They are together, explained Yayun. Forefather Dragon Lizard understood it now. He suddenly asked, "Oh right, where's that kid? I noticed that a masked woman from the Phantom Clan had chased after him. Why didn't he gather with us?" Listening to him, Tu Shirchi and Adam's group had noticed that. However, after a while, Tu Shirchi got an explanation for this. Perhaps he's afraid that you have some other ideas. Forefather Dragon Lizard understood immediately. After a while, Forefather Dragon Lizard shook his head with a forced smile. I put my hand on my chest and wonder myself. If he were here, it would be really hard to make a choice. He is fused with a wisp of his soul of the absolute beginning creature. If I refined him, I'm sure I would have been able to activate the memory in that soul and get dark energy to break through to the territory ancestor realm. Sigh, I've been stuck in this realm for a long time. I've seen it in my dreams too. He's a key to my breakthrough. He's right. He should stay away from me. I wonder if he can escape that phantom woman. She's really intimidating. In some aspects, she's stronger than Sing. We can fight against Sing equally, but she can subdue us right from the start. If Shiryen hadn't struck her, we would have been confined in the Snow Lotus now, said Yayun. Indeed, we owe him a favor, Tu Shirchi contemplated. Then we should make it up with his woman. We should protect her while she's enhancing her realm and accommodating Sing's power. You guys take care of her. I'm going to find the soul refining cauldron. Perhaps it's still here. Dragon Lizard suddenly thought of an idea. Don't waste your efforts, Tu Shirchi laughed. The soul refining cauldron is a divine weapon from the absolute beginning era. If that Soul Clan expert dares to lend his cauldron, he won't be afraid of losing it. Don't think about it. The tamed divine weapon from the absolute beginning era can feel its master regardless of how far it is. Dragon Lizard hadn't given up on his idea yet. He ignored Tu Shirchi and flew toward his territory. The members of the Dragon Lizard clan slowly emerged from the caves in the Sea of Asteroids. When the battle began, Forefather Dragon Lizard had used his control power to Dragon Lizard Star to arrange them to safe areas to stay away from the battle. And now, after the battle had ended, Forefather Dragon Lizard called for his fellows. Those people received Forefather Dragon Lizard's orders and scattered to find the soul refining cauldron. They hoped to see this divine weapon from the Soul Clan. Forefather Dragon Lizard landed and closed his eyes to sense. Then, he was shaken when he looked at an asteroid in the distance. That asteroid was shimmering. Although there was no one riding it, it was heading toward the Soul Clan. The asteroid had suppressed energy fluctuations, as if they were a warning to anyone who had the guts to come near. Some members of the Dragon Lizard clan saw the flying asteroid. They were moved, so they wanted to stop it. Get back here, all of you! Forefather Dragon Lizard screamed and called all of his fellows to get back. With a stern face, he said, its owner has it under control now. Don't go there to die. He was filled with fear indeed. When the territory ancestor expert controlled the absolute beginning divine weapon, it could be very formidable. Since that person didn't use the cauldron to eliminate this area, he would have something that scared him. Perhaps because of the distance, he had to spend more energy for some other reasons. If Dragon Lizard clan members stopped the soul-refining cauldron and enraged the others, the Dragon Lizard clan would disappear from this vast sea of stars. Forefather Dragon Lizard understood the situation quickly. Sighing, he returned to the asteroid where Audrey was sitting. Together with Tu Shirchi and his wife, they watched Audrey. After a long time, Minghong, the brutal soul, had also gone into the vortex. Audrey's host's soul returned to her soul altar and the vortex on her forehead disappeared. She finally opened her eyes. Congratulations, Yayuna praised and smiled at her. With your cultivation vase, if you're not disturbed, you will reach third sky of Immortal Realm soon. Haha, this time, you have the biggest fortune. If that kid knows you have such an auspicious chance, he will be very happy for you. Audrey knew what she had. Her cold face beamed strangely. Thank you. Her host's soul had always paid attention to the surroundings. Thanks to Tu Shirchi and Yayun, Forefather Dragon Lizard didn't kill her. She had thanked them sincerely. Yeah, I was a little rash. I owe that kid too. If he hadn't broken that Phantom Woman's plan, we couldn't have killed Singh. Forefather Dragon Lizard hesitated for a while and then took out a pellet. He shot that pellet towards Audrey. It's an immortal pellet. This is because I am thankful to him. I hope that when you see him, you can tell him that I'm sorry. It's true that I did think about killing him to take his soul. Audrey was thrilled. Her shaking fingers wrapped around the magical pellet that had helped Shiryen enter the immortal realm. She knew that this pellet was made of a level 7 life star with billions of lives on it. Lizard had refined them personally. Also, this pellet was the focus of the Dragon Lizard clan's festival. She had never thought that Forefather Dragon Lizard would give her one. With those souls from Singh, your attainment in the future won't be ordinary. Even now, you're strong enough to defend yourself. In this sea domain of nihility, aside from some dangerous areas, you can travel around, smiled Yayun. Audrey held the immortal pellet tight. Her eyes twinkled as if she was considering something. After a while, she nodded to them and said, "See you later." She didn't explain anything or say more to Adams, Masha before directly flying away. Countless souls moved under her feet and gave her a terrifying aura. Also, her energy fluctuations weren't less than the warriors at Immortal Realm. Forget it. I think she hates us too, Masha forced a smile. At the critical moment, Adams had pointed Audrey out to save his life. Although he didn't create a hopeless situation for her, Adams' deed was wrong. Masha and the others didn't have the face to go with Audrey. They could only see her leaving. Here, it's for you. Tu Shirchi thought for a while and then gave Masha a jet black token. If the Heavenly Eye clan wants to depend on our Mysterious Sky clan, you can take this token to the Mysterious Sky clan. We will accommodate you. Listening to him, Evelyn's, Adams, and Masha were so thrilled. Masha quivered while holding the token. Real? Really? Our Heavenly Eye clan can come to depend on your Mysterious Sky clan? You really want to shelter us? To give that kid face, Tu Shirchi didn't conceal anything and spoke casually. Masha, Evelyn's, and Adams shivered. Then, they looked in the direction Shiryen had disappeared and thanked him inwardly. Usually, the 7 great clans would only accept second-class clans like the Water Tribe or the Dragon Lizard clan to be their vassals. The Heavenly Eye clan was just a third-class clan. They didn't have the qualifications to depend on the Mysterious Sky clan. If they wanted to do that, they had to be a second-class clan. If they became dependent on the Mysterious Sky clan, they would receive many benefits. Later on, when the Heavenly Eye clan had some disputes with the other clans, they could use the reputation of the Mysterious Sky clan to scare their opponents. If the Heavenly Eye clan got into a dangerous situation, they could call the Mysterious Sky clan for help. The Mysterious Sky clan wouldn't just sit and watch them die. They had to protect those people to ensure loyalty from other dependent clans. Even if it wasn't their wish, they could at least ensure that the Heavenly Eye clan wouldn't be hunted down to the last member. Most of the Heavenly Eye clan's enemies were the third-class clan. With the Mysterious Sky clan as their background, it was going to be much easier for them to do many things. It had excited them more than having one immortal pellet from Forefather Dragon Lizard. Tu Shirchi's promise was a safety assurance to their entire clan. They were wholeheartedly grateful for Shiryen. They knew that Tu Shirchi appreciated them because he wanted to give Shiryen face. Just a small clan. It's okay if they want to depend on our Dragon Lizard clan. Why do you need to make it so big? Forefather Dragon Lizard and Tu Shirchi landed on Dragon Lizard Star. Forefather Dragon Lizard asked because he couldn't understand Tu Shirchi's motive. Haha, you don't understand. Tu Shirchi smiled. If that kid knows we gave him face, he will have more good impressions of our mysterious Sky Clan. Earning his good impression will be precious in the future. The good impression given to a territory ancestor realm expert will be more important than accommodating 100 Heavenly Eye clans. He still needs to experience a lot to reach the territory ancestor realm. I'm just afraid that he will be killed before he could even reach the bottleneck, snorted Forefather Dragon Lizard. Chapter 1400, Skull Island. Chapter 1400, Skull Island. At this moment, Shiryen was on edge between life and death. Shiryen had turned into a starlight beam and moved zigzag across the dark, cold sea domain of nihility. Sometimes he flashed and disappeared, crossing many blind corners of spatial blind spots. The masked woman couldn't figure out his location. Sometimes, the starlight disappeared as if it had mingled with the void in this vast sea or stars, leaving no trace. He didn't dare to stop and rest for even a second. The phantom masked woman was like his shadow that never left him. Every time he slightly relaxed his nerves, the shadow approached instantly. A cold energy that chilled his heart seeped over from a long distance. After each minute, Shiryen could feel the resentment and the murderous intention from the masked woman increase. The long pursuit didn't wear out her patience. It didn't make her think about giving it up. It only made her will stronger. Mwahaha, little brother, don't run. Jiejie promises to treat you well. You don't need to run across the entire sea. You are wasting your energy. Also, you're predestined to not be able to hide. How long can your cultivation base endure wasting energy? It'll drain one day. The masked woman giggled, her voice soft and tender. However, it was like a cold saber in Shiryen's ears. The masked woman of the Phantom clan massively resented Shiryen. Her laughter became more tender and charming with the hope of making Shiryen relax for a while. An expert with exquisite space power Upanishad was a nightmare to chase. Shiryen had a profound cultivation base. His power Upanishads, his resolution, his patience, and vigilance were all outstanding. After this perpetual pursuit, the masked woman also admired him. She was astounded because of his toughness and the pure, abundant energy he had. Shiryen obviously had just reached the immortal realm. With his current realm and power, he should have been drained to death during this long pursuit. However, until now, Shiryen was still vigorous like a dragon or a tiger. He didn't look like his power was about to run out. It surprised the masked woman a lot. She didn't know because of her massacre on Dragon Lizard Continent that many hiding aliens were killed. Shiryen had taken in their essence chi after they died. The reason why Shiryen could endure the whole pursuit was because of the essence chi from the dead. His energy was still abundant and his god power ancient tree was still crystal and sparkling. Anyway, eventually, the refined energy from his acupuncture points was almost drained. As he didn't have time to gather energy or cultivate, he had only consumed energy all the time. Even if he had more energy, he could use it all in one day. Shiryen and the masked woman had come to the point where they competed with patience and endurance. When Shiryen found no more energy from the acupuncture points, he immediately swallowed 2 congealing spirit pellets that Yeyun had given him. When the pellets dissolved in his body, a new flow of energy flooded him. He became vigorous one more time. At the same time, he intended to show his whereabouts. Then, he tore the space curtain to teleport right after that. The masked woman looked so cold. When she found that Shiryen was running out of energy, he suddenly refilled it. This struck her confidence hard. Shiryen had stealthily attacked her on Dragon Star Continent. The world-within-world explosions had damaged her snow lotus and consumed a large amount of her energy. After a long pursuit, she had consumed a lot of her god power. If she wasn't in third sky of immortal realm with profound and pure energy, she would not have endured until now. She wasn't content with this chase. Being an expert at the peak of immortal realm, she was using her best power to chase after a small warrior who had just entered the immortal realm. If she didn't succeed, it was going to humiliate her for the rest of her life. Thus, even if she had to endure more wounds, she still gritted her teeth to endure. She had to capture Shuryen and then torment him to death. Shuryen began to worry. The 2 congealing spirit pellets were his last methods. After he had used up the energy from the 2 pellets, he had to depend on the energy in his god power ancient tree to continue running away. Along his way, he needed to use a huge amount of energy for each teleport. If he didn't have the energy from the acupuncture points, he would have been drained to death already. Thus, seeing the masked woman chase behind him, he had to teleport all the time. If he didn't, she could catch up to him quickly. Feeling the god power draining, he knew that he couldn't dodge this kappa. It was just like what the masked woman had told him. When the Phantom Clan masked woman knew he had dark energy, she wanted to recruit him and make him the male guest of her Phantom Clan. However, as soon as she found that he had a wisp of a soul of an absolute beginning creature, she changed her mind. Just like Dragon Lizard, she was at the peak of immortal realm. She just needed to control dark energy to break through to territory ancestor realm. She just needed to kill Shuryen and then refine him to stimulate the absolute beginning creature soul. That's how she could seize the chance to enter the territory ancestor realm. It was much more attractive than taking him to the Phantom Clan and making him their distinguished guest. No matter what, Shuryen had to run continuously. Otherwise, he would be killed and refined. The sea domain of Nihility had countless asteroids, broken pieces of stars, cosmic dust, and debris everywhere. Shuryen could see many pieces of broken continents. A massive island was flashing and floating in the dark void ahead of him. That island was pale white. When it emerged, it had some kind of energy that made it hide one more time. Shuryen had good senses to capture strange things. He pondered and then accelerated toward that island. Piercing through a thick layer of pale white mist, he appeared in the atmosphere of the island. Shortly after, the gravity that was hundreds of times stronger applied to him. He felt grumblingly like a meteor on the island. He dug a cave on the island. Crawling out of the cave, he urged his power to move dozens of meters. Looking at the vast land, the mountains and ditches, he was frightened. This island was so massive it was around 10 times bigger than the Immortal Island. At first glance, the entire island was filled with wall bones. Shuryen could see humanoid skeletons, beast skeletons, and alien skeletons. Most of them weren't complete. They were smashed into pieces and scattered around the island. Vaguely, some of them had created some sort of formation. When Shuryen was observing the surroundings, the masked woman from the Phantom Clan reached this island. The island looked different in her eyes. She concentrated on it and found the entire island a massive skull moving in the void. It had 2 hollow eye sockets and a massive mouth, which were 3 bottomless caves. U.P. Dated by Novelful. The massive skull island shook and released strange and evil waves of energy. It looked like the skull was adjusting something to prevent people from seeing it. The skull island of the Whitebone clan. The masked woman was surprised and hesitant. She knew that this skull island was the territory of the Whitebone clan. If she intruded it, she could cause a dispute and offend the members of the Whitebone clan. However, she wasn't content. She had chased after him for a long time. She wasn't going to let him go from here. After hesitating for a while, she called sternly. Meiji of the Phantom Clan. I want to land on the island for a matter. I wonder which friend from the Whitebone clan is staying on this island. She revealed her identity and called toward the floating skull island. Lit. A charming woman, concubine, or female entertainer. The skull island was still flashing. The empty sockets shimmered with bizarre lights. No one answered her. Then, I'm sorry for offending. Meiji thought and then called out gently. She headed toward the massive skull island. Through the pale white mist, her sexy body landed on the island. Although the gravity here was hundreds of times stronger, she was still floating and slowly descending like a fairy. Her cold eyes raked around to search. She didn't see Shiryan. She snorted and used her soul consciousness to check. Her soul consciousness was like a thick mesh net lowering from the sky to cover every small corner. The island appeared as a skull with countless piles of white bones in different sections. At this moment, while Meiji was releasing her soul consciousness to search, her soul energy seemed to activate some kind of gravitational formation. She saw 3 spots where white bones with strange and malicious aura shimmering gathered. The hollow sockets of the massive skull suddenly sparkled in white, eccentric lights. It flashed and then disappeared. I'm here just to find a person. I'm not going to disturb your cultivating time. Please forgive me. Meiji seemed afraid of the White Bone clan a lot. While using her soul consciousness to search, she screamed tenderly to show that she didn't have any evil intention and that she had no choice but to land on the island. Swish! Meiji's sexy body swayed and then flew toward a pile of white bones. Boom! 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 The white bones were smashed and it revealed Shiryan. He immediately urged his power Upanishad to teleport. Boom! A strange energy grumblingly released from the thick white mist above his head. The space was bound to so many layers of clouds. Shiryan's space power Upanishad was restricted. He couldn't build a space bridge to teleport. He stood up and looked at Meiji coming with a faint smile. His eyes suddenly filled with brutal and savage intention. Then I should risk my life in a nice battle. Roaring like a caged animal, his god power surged all. At the same time, he stimulated the power of his blood. The bone wings appeared on his back while armor with spikes covered his body. Shiryan decided not to retain anything in this battle. He was going to urge the death power Upanishad and swallow power Upanishad to the acme. To save his life, he wasn't going to hesitate to pay any price. A brutal, murderous aura shot out of his body. While his thoughts were changing, the death and life power Upanishad circulated first. Shortly after, the soul burial field of death power Upanishad was created. Magically, billions of twinkling light dots flew out from countless pieces of bones. They were like fireflies or raindrops that congregated on Shiryan. Meiji swiftly came forward. With begrudging eyes, she couldn't help but furrow her brows. I said I don't want to disturb you. I'm here to capture this person. She thought that the members of the White Bone clan on the Skull Island suddenly took action. She didn't think that the light dots from the White Bones were related to Shiryan. There was no sound replying to her from the Skull Island. Meiji snorted. She didn't say more. Her agile, while hand snatched over Shiryan's head like a venomous snake. The chilling aura like a glacier stormed and seeped into Shiryan's body. Shortly after, his body began to freeze. Chapter 1401, A Little Skeleton. Chapter 1401, A Little Skeleton. Billions of light dots flew out of the white bones and flooded Shiryan. The cold, sinister energy dots hovered around Shiryan and merged with the soul burial field, giving him the ability to control this new energy. At the same time, Meiji of the Phantom clan took action. Her white hand snatched toward him from a distance like an agile snake. The cold energy seeped into Shiryan's soul altar and made his entire body make crack sounds. He could even see his body slowly freeze and frost. The space around him was frozen while the white bones underneath had become crystal like ice sticks. Everything was frozen under Meiji's power. Meiji was a member of the Phantom clan. She was born with the gift of a mind-controlling technique. While she was talking to someone, her laughter or even a wince was enough to enchant and capture the other's mind. Her hot, sexy body made people think that she had lived a life of debauchery. In her nature, she was cold and dark. She also cultivated ice power Upanishad. However, she just needed to use the soul-enchanting technique to kill her enemies. When she attacked Shiryan, because of his tough will and the Origin's flames, she had to use her real power Upanishad. Crack! 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 The soul of freezing echoed continuously. Meiji's eyes were so cold and her voluptuous body was filled with the extremely cold energy. Sizzle! Sizzle. Sizzle. Billions of twinkling dots twirling around Shiryen had become mist under the cold energy. A thick mist now covered Shiryen. However, Shiryen's eyes were bright inside the mist. His mind and soul weren't affected at all. His sword-like fingernails suddenly received energy from the mist when his power Upanishad switched. Swish! His hands tore the mist. The dead silent energy bloomed from his fingertips. 10 pale flames that were like soul-taking chains attacked and attempted to coil Meiji's jade-like neck. They didn't even care about layers of her cold energy. Meiji's eyes were so cold as she talked. I am Meiji from the Phantom Clan. I've made myself clear that I don't want to trouble you. If you help this kid deal with me, don't blame me for not giving face to your Whitebone clan. The aura from the 10 pale flames was the unique aura of the Whitebone clan. It made her think that someone was helping Shiryen discreetly. That's how he could expose such powerful attacks. Then, Meiji spurted an ice lotus. The lotus had icy, crystal petals. Inside the petal, some sort of white flames were flickering as if they had life energy. The 10 pale flames wanted to avoid the ice lotus, but the flames inside the petals had attracted them. Unexpectedly, they got rid of Shiryen's soul control and went to the ice lotus. The ice lotus then clinked and murmured like a running stream. The 10 white flames subsided and slowly disappeared. Kill! A red sea gushed up from Shiryen's chest like a giant dragon soaring out of the abyss. The blood-red sea suddenly condensed into a bloodthirsty 100-meter-tall demogorgon. Its body was like a mountain with a pair of red iron, anchor-like claws. Its claws then pounded on Meiji's head. Meiji's bright eyes were frightened. She looked at the demogorgon made of the bloody sword and was panic-stricken. It was the secret technique of the Dark Demon Clan. Who was this kid? How has he mastered all the strange and rare techniques? She rose one hand to grab something and a radiant ice mirror emerged. The ice mirror reflected countless icy light beams that shot away like ice sabers. The giant claw of the demogorgon slashed on the ice mirror. A loud clang boomed, but the ice mirror stood still. Meiji didn't look at the mirror. Her snake-like body twisted a little. Then, all of a sudden, the ice walls were conjured beneath, above, and around Shiryen, pressing on him and confining him. A lot of tricks. You have dark energy, but you don't know how to use its real power. Otherwise, it would not be easy to capture you at all. Meiji sneered and walked towards Shiryen, placing one of her ivory hand on the ice wall. The cold energy increased several times. The ice walls were now connected to each other, forming a cube where Shiryen was frozen inside. His skeleton, body, nerves, consciousness, and even his train of thought stopped. His soul altar was freezing altogether. He became an alive ice sculpture. Meiji looked content. She exhaled in relief and then mumbled, "My job is done here. I won't bother you more. Friend, if you have time to visit the Phantom Clan, Meiji will welcome you personally." She looked at the clear void of the Skull Island and used her Phantom Clan's etiquette to bow and bid farewell. Afterward, she placed one hand on the massive ice cube and was about to leave the Skull Island. After she had left this place for a long distance, she was going to slowly refine Shiryen, which would give her a chance to enter the territory ancestor realm. While she was about to leave, if someone could see from the outside, he would see a faint halo on the hollow sockets of the Skull Island. The skull seemed to wake up and regain life. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 snow-white bone dragons around hundreds of meters long flew out of the skull's hollow eye sockets. The dragons were covered with white bones. Their eyes and the heads had strange and precious stones inlaid in their white bodies. As soon as they flew out, they aimed at Meiji. One of the snow-white dragons opened its mouth to gush out a deep green stream that smelled sour and pungent. Apparently, it was extremely toxic. The other dragon fluttered its bone wings and created 2 tornadoes with Meiji as their target. Meiji felt cold inwardly. She couldn't help but scream. Our Phantom Clan and your Whitebone Clan have never offended each other, but you're attacking me. Do you want to start a dispute between our 2 clans? There was no answer from the Skull Island. Meiji took a deep breath. She pulled herself together and became so stern. She had to drop Shiryen down first. The dangerous aura that the 2 white bone dragons had given her wasn't less than too sure she and his wife. Moreover, she knew that the bone slaves that the White Bone clan refined didn't suffer from pain or death. They could even destroy their own bodies. They were terrifying puppets indeed. If she was at her peak condition, even if she had to grab Shiryen with one hand, she wouldn't be afraid of the two bone dragons. But right now, Shiryen's world-within-world shattering had damaged her on Dragon Lizard Star. And after a long pursuit, her condition wasn't really good. She didn't have even half of the energy she had accumulated. Thus, she couldn't keep Shiryen on her side and leave while fighting against another enemy. Shiryen was now an ice sculpture imprisoned inside the ice cube. His soul and body were all frozen. In his body, only one spot had energy that fluctuated. It was the tier of heaven flames. The sea of fire created by the heaven flames had never extinguished. It slowly burned and woke up his co-soul. They warmed and gradually awakened the frozen, second soul. The two bone dragons stormed towards Meiji with a river of toxins and tornadoes. Meiji had urged her power Upanishad. The icy chi twirled around her. The ice sabers, icicles, swords, and even the snowstorm were conjured. However, she could only resist the two dragons. Her new fearsome mask was torn, and so were her clothes. Her glowing white skin that looked like shining jade was exposed. It was too bad that the dragons didn't take in or admire her marvelous sexy body. Shiryen could do that, but he was still frozen. The massive, abyss-like mouth of the Skull Island strangely moved. A small figure crawled out of the mouth and jumped towards Meiji. After one jump, he could glide through the distance that even the bone dragons couldn't fly through. The bone feet landed grumblingly and shook the entire Skull Island. It was a little skeleton that was around 4 feet. Each bone of the skeleton was shining and transparent like a crystal. The skeleton was glowing and it looked pretty bizarre. To the White Bone clan, with this height, this skeleton was just a child. It was going to need a long time to reach adulthood. The skeleton was moving at breakneck speed. It was closer to Meiji after each second. The White Bone clan was a unique clan. The children in their clan weren't born in their mother's womb. Each child of this clan was refined by its parents. The parents would gather many pieces of white bone. The white bones formed the skeletons of the powerful creatures. Bone Pond in the White Bone clan was used to refine them. This process took hundreds of years, or even 10,000 years. Taking in the energy from billions of pieces of bone submerged in the Bone Pond, a new child of the White Bone clan slowly formed. After the bone body was formed, its parents carried out soul intercourse, which would use their soul essence and energy to create a life seed. Then, that life seed would be planted into the bone body. After many years, the bone body and the seed fused together. Then, a new child of the White Bone clan was born. It was true that it was extremely tough for the White Bone clan to reproduce. It would take several thousand years, or even 10,000 years, to give birth to a child in the White Bone clan. As it was so difficult to give birth to children in the White Bone clan, of course, the newborn babies were very different from ordinary people. Normally, if the parents of the kid were powerful enough and they had prepared rare but precious bones for it, when the bone body was formed, it was already intimidating. It could even be as strong as an immortal realm expert. Also, if the parents had powerful and profound souls, the life seed created from their soul intercourse was extremely extraordinary. Normally, when a child of the White Bone clan was born, it had already reached King God realm. If its parents were more formidable, it could reach Ethereal God realm or Original God realm. And it wasn't strange for an incipient God realm baby to be born after the life seed was activated. The White Bone child was galloping towards Meiji. There were so many mysterious and magical absolute beginning symbols on its little skull. On its way, it had grumblingly stomped on the bone ground of the Skull Island, which was like a terrifying earthquake. The power from this pair of bony feet was actually so formidable that even the immortal realm experts couldn't have such power. This little skeleton had reached at least the immortal realm. It was small, but its realm was very high. There was no need to wonder how fierce its parents were. Chapter 1402, A Turn for the Better. Chapter 1402, A Turn for the Better. Boom. A small, white crystal skeleton descended from the sky and steadied between the two skeleton dragons. The bone dragons furiously attacked Meiji and suddenly retracted, crouching like two nice hounds by the skeleton's feet, their rolling eyes serval. Meiji was bewildered. Her bright eyes looked surprised. She looked at the little skeleton of the White Bone clan, her charming face extremely stunned. She knew how the White Bone clan members produced the next generation. She understood clearly that even if the White Bone clan parents were at the peak of a mortal realm, they couldn't give birth to such a terrifying child. She could feel the tremendous energy from this little buddy from the White Bone clan. His energy fluctuated and made her heart beat anxiously faster. Meiji became frightened. She was so frightened when she looked at the skull island underneath. She became gingerly and didn't dare to act rashly anymore. The parents that could refine such a formidable child had unimaginably profound realms. If this sort of character was on the island, they were likely the most powerful warriors of the White Bone clan. The white crystal little skeleton didn't have a bit of flesh on it. Its eyes were inlaid with star-like precious gemstones. One of the two gemstones was white and the other was red. They separately released burning and freezing energies. As the skeleton was gazing at her, Meiji was scared. The small skeleton had a heart core, which was something unknown but illuminating. The heart core was the source of energy of the White Bone clan. It functioned like the god power ancient tree of the other races. It was really complicated to create the heart core. It was also related to the stimulation of the life seed and the materials needed to refine the child. The energy in this little skeleton seemed to be endless. Meiji thought that this kid was mysterious and dangerous at the same time. Crack! Crack! The two dragons smacked their jaws as if they were little puppies. They twisted their bodies to describe something to the little skeleton, and the bones on their bodies even shook. The star-like eyes of the little skeleton twinkled as it was listening to the bone dragons. Then, it looked at Shiryen. Fire burst out of its eye. It was dazzling and it immediately aimed at the ice cube. The ice cube created by Meiji's cold energy was like snow that was roasted on a fire. It melted down immediately. Shiryen resumed his spirit and body functions. He looked at the small skeleton and screamed in fear. With his profound power Upanishads, he could have a precise understanding of lunar stars and solar stars. The white and red eyes of the skeleton were the lunar nucleus and the solar nucleus respectively. Shiryen could feel the hot energy from the red eye, which was not less than the combination of 10 suns. It was extremely formidable. He believed that if this little skeleton detonated the solar energy in its left eye, it was enough to burn hundreds of life stars into ashes or turn immortal realm experts into charcoal. The intimidation of that scorching energy had frightened the heaven flame inside his brain. Under such a look, he felt his blood evaporating. And the other was controlling its power precisely. Similarly, the right eye of the little skeleton was made of a lunar nucleus. It was cold and filled with een and some marvelous powers. He's the enemy that I have to kill. Child, are your parents here? I am Meiji of the Phantom Clan. I don't want to create any misunderstanding with your White Bone clan. I was wrong when I've entered your precious land. But I was begrudging. Please. Meiji immediately used her soft voice to explain when she saw the little skeleton rescuing Shiryen from the ice cube. At this moment, her mask was torn and her clothes were ragged. Her delicate waist and creamy thighs were discernible. Her assets could boil any man's blood. However, it didn't work on the little skeleton as its eyes moved swiftly and focused on Shiryen. It didn't even mind Meiji's explanation. Shiryen was filled with surprise. He could feel the subtle and marvelous aura from the skeleton, which was creeping on him as if it was trying to pull the thread of his cocoon. This kid of the White Bone clan was using some special technique to check Shiryen's secrets. That strange energy moved around his veins, sea of consciousness, and soul altar. Meiji's charming face grimaced. The feeling of being ignored made her feel insulted as she was used to being the focus of the crowd. However, she didn't dare to do anything. She wasn't so sure if this little skeleton's parents were on this skull island too. If they were, their realm was likely higher than hers. She couldn't recognize them and she didn't have the power to resist. Asterisk 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 asterisk. After a while, the little skeleton pointed at Shiryen while making some strange noises as if it was talking about something. Shiryen was bewildered. He shook his head continuously. I don't understand. The memories of languages from the Heavenly Eye clan didn't contain this language. Apparently, the skeleton wasn't using a common language. Shiryen didn't understand anything. Meiji of the Phantom clan was also puzzled. Her beautiful, exquisite eyebrows furrowed. After a while, her eyes brightened. The language of the previous generation of the White Bone clan. She placed an emerald ring on her forehead. A green light rippled from the ring and disappeared into her head. He's my captive. Meiji immediately understood what the little skeleton said. She was enraged. You want him to go with you? Why do you have to ask that? She was speaking a common language, but the small skeleton apparently understood her. Its line of sight moved from Shiryen to Meiji. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The skeleton spoke in the strange language again. It sounded angry as light rolled in its eyes. Meiji wore a cold face and shook her head continuously. No, he's my captive. I don't care what you want. I have to take this man away. You little kid, don't you understand? Have your parents taught you how to behave? The little skeleton was just angry, but it didn't do anything. However, when Meiji mentioned its parents, she seemed to have ignited its wrath. The skeleton let out a low roar. The terrifying energy fluctuations inside the Skull Island seemed to activate with the mysterious formation in the skeleton's eyes. The mysterious symbols on the skeleton's skull twinkled like stars. Then, brilliant, star-like spots appeared on its skeleton. They were like its acupuncture points. Shiryen gawked and his eyes radiated the magical light. He cultivated star power Upanishads, so at first glance, he knew that those were the real stars. They were refined stars that functioned as the acupuncture points of this little skeleton. At this moment, so many twinkling stars began to diffuse the surging star energy. Unexpectedly, this little bony thing had mastered the star power Upanishad like him. What do you want? Meiji was also frightened. Actually, she wasn't afraid of this little skeleton. She was scared of the members of the ancient White Bone clan who could be properly hiding in the Skull Island. This little skeleton spoke a language of the White Bone clan's previous generation that no one used now. From this point, his parents was likely terrifyingly ancient too. If they were hiding in the Skull Island, let alone Meiji, even if her clan's territory ancestor realm expert came here, she couldn't do anything. Swish, swish, swish. The bunches of light fell like meteors. They came out from different areas of the Skull Island, and as the skeleton was guiding them, they moved toward Meiji. Meiji was panic-stricken when the lights focused on her. She didn't hesitate to take out the snow lotus to cover her body entirely. At the same time, she urged her ice power Upanishad to freeze her own body. When the ice mountain emerged, her sexy body was preserved inside the peak of the ice mountain. The skeleton hissed strangely and guided the starlight winding around the ice mountain peak like chains. Right after that, a scarlet light column shot out from its left eye and attacked the peak. The ice on the mountain peak melted fast under the scorching heat of the red light. Those meteor-like lights were ready to attack right when the peak all melted. Meiji screamed inwardly. If she was in her best condition, she wouldn't have been so passive in dealing with this kind of attack. However, at this moment, she could only defend and she couldn't spend extra energy to counterattack. She knew that unless the energy of the scarlet light was drained, she would never be able to get rid of this peak safely. The little skeleton didn't mind her at all. Seeing her confined for the time being, its anger subsided. Then, it turned to Shiryen and gestured while speaking its alien language. Shiryen could see the begging gleam in its little eyes. It seemed to treat Shiryen a lot better than it treated Meiji. I don't understand what you're saying. But it seems like you want to take me somewhere. Okay, No problem, said Shiryen nonchalantly. This little member of the White Bone clan wasn't weaker than Meiji, and this was the Skull Island, the White Bone clan's territory. If he had harmful intentions, Shiryen couldn't hide. He'd better stay quiet and see what this little buddy wanted to do. Shiryen made up his mind fast. The little skeleton understood him. Its eyes brightened when Shiryen agreed to go with it. Then, it pointed at one of the bone dragons. The bone dragon roared and flew toward Shiryen, crouching down under his feet. The little skeleton pointed at Shiryen and then the bone dragon, asking him to get on it. All right, Shiryen was cooperative. He stepped on the bone dragon. He was surprised to see that the bone dragon was smooth and felt warm like real jade. The little skeleton rode the other bone dragon. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two bone dragons took Shiryen and the skeleton away. They disappeared from Meiji's sight. They flew toward the massive, dark mouth of the skull and entered the huge crack instantly. Meiji glared at Shiryen being taken away, but she couldn't do anything. Her resentment grew bigger. The scarlet light column was like a flaming thread unceasingly burning the ice peak that she had condensed. The starlight chains wound around the peak with terrifying energy, waiting to strike her hard when the ice all melted. Damn it! Whose kid is that? How could it be so abnormal like that? Meiji cursed. She felt bothersome thinking about the peerless experts of the White Bone clan from the previous generation. Chapter 1403, Parents' Love. Chapter 1403, Parents' Love. The White Bone clan's little skeleton brought Shiryen deep into the Skull Island through a massive, mouth-like cave. It was a dark area where Shiryen couldn't see anything. The bone dragons flapped their wings and moved through a dim-lit passage. After a while, Shiryen finally saw a band of pale white light. It was like phosphorus flames from the bones. Shiryen was placid as he sent his energy to his eyes to have better eyesight. The dim-lit area became clearer to him. This area was surrounded by stone walls. Those walls looked ash-gray, and they were actually decayed bones. Many mysterious drawings were carved on the walls, including the moon, the sun, the stars, mountains, and even lakes. They looked lively as if they were real. After a while, the dragon bones stopped. The poorly illuminated cave suddenly brightened. Two bone dragons stopped by a massive stone room, which was the center of the Skull Island. This was a spaciously massive room that connected to 49 stone paths. Those 49 paths were like big ditches that connected to different areas on Skull Island. Piles of ash-gray bones stood in the paths. Those bones didn't have any bit of energy remaining. When Shiryen released his soul consciousness to sense, they turned into ashes. The stone room had many ditches like a network of channels that created a massive, unknown formation. Two coffins stood in the center of the formation. They were made of unknown materials. The coffins were opened and standing in the middle of a massive bone pond. This bone pond must have had some liquid, but it was all dried up now. The little skeleton of the White Bone clan stopped by the two coffins. The eyes made of stars of the skeleton contained its deep sorrow. The atmosphere in the stone chamber was affected by the skeleton's mood. Sadness was hovering in the air. The little skeleton's head turned around to take in the two coffins. Shiryen silently walked forward. He saw two members of the White Bone clan, one male and one female, lie inside the coffins. Apparently, these two White Bone clan experts were the parents of this child. They lay quietly. There was no aura or life energy fluctuation. Their bones were brown-gray like bones that decayed for many years. They looked fragile as if they would break when someone touched them. Watching the coffins and the bone pond for a while, Shiryen's eyes brightened. The two coffins had many long bones that reached the bone pond. They looked as if they were used to transport something into the pond. Shiryen became more curious. He observed around and found that the paths and the ditches in the room all headed to the two coffins. They were likely used to pour some energy into the two coffins to refine, and then pour into the bone pond to nurture something it bore. He looked at the little skeleton and understood it immediately. He had heard something about how the White Bone clan had refined the children from Evelyn's. It seemed like this kid's parents had used the mysterious power of the White Bone clan to condense the energy from the bones on the Skull Island and used their bodies to refine the energy and pour into the bone pond. All this was to refine the bone body for this little skeleton. After the bone body was formed, something happened. His parents had to drain their own life energy to create him. They died in the end. During this process, something unexpected happened. Otherwise, this couple wouldn't have sacrificed themselves. While he was thinking, the little skeleton looked at him and then pointed at his parents inside the coffins. He spoke and gestured. He was trying to tell Shiryen something. Although Shiryen didn't understand anything, he could guess the skeleton's idea. He shook his head and sighed. Your parents don't have any bit of energy. They are dead. I'm afraid I can't do anything. The White Bone clan little skeleton shook his head continuously. The scarlet and white lights shot out from his eyes and fell on the brown-gray male skeleton. Strangely, a feeble wisp of soul energy fluctuated for a fragment of time. The little skeleton's eyes brightened. He pointed at his father's body, crying and speaking to Shiryen. Shiryen was surprised. He concentrated on sensing. Then, he found a feeble soul energy fluctuation in the skull of the White Bone clan male member. However, his life energy was drained, but there was a feeble wisp of soul energy, even though it wasn't enough to wake him up. Unless his bone body had vitality. The little skeleton pointed to Shiryen and gestured hard. Then, he lay into the bone pond and released the vitality. His vitality moved through the white bones connected to the pond and the coffins, but it couldn't get through the coffin to pour into his parents' bodies. Shiryen observed and he understood it. A strange feeling flooded him. The stone chamber inside the Skull Island was a peculiar formation of the White Bone clan. A White Bone clan couple wanted their kid to be powerful, so they had spent a lot of effort to build the formation, which took their energy through the coffins and poured vitality into the bone pond. The coffin and the bone pond were parts of this marvelous formation. However, it seemed like there was some big problem that happened during the process, which could harm the child. This couple had drained their life energy to save their child. Also, they had become so weak that they had just a wisp of a feeble soul energy. There was not even a little bit of vitality left in their bodies. This little bony buddy had found that Shiryen cultivated life power Upanishad, so he hoped that Shiryen could change this formation to pour energy into the pond and make it run back into the coffins. The little skeleton wanted to use his vitality to wake up his parents. How deep was a parent's love in this world? Shiryen shook his head with emotions. This strange formation only receives vitality. We can't use the bone pond to guide energy back to the coffins. Your parents knew that you would do that in the future. They didn't let you do that. They hoped that you wouldn't pay with your life to revive them. The grief in the small skeleton became heavier. It opened its mouth and pointed to Shiryen. He looked a little anxious and restless. Shiryen gave him a forced smile. It's true that I'm cultivating life power Upanishad, but my realm isn't high enough to distort this marvelous formation. All right, I can use the life power Upanishad to try. Let's see if my vitality can help your parents. The little skeleton nodded continuously, his eyes bright. He clasped his bony hands and bowed to Shiryen, which made him look funny. I can only give it a try. You shouldn't have such big hopes. Shiryen stepped forward and placed one hand on the heart core of the male skeleton. The heart core was the energy source of the White Bone clan members. It functions similarly to the god power ancient tree of the warriors. This man's heart core was rhombus shaped and simple as if it was made of natural jade. The heart core was cold under his hand. However, it had no energy fluctuation. It was like a still, stagnant pond. Shiryen was cautiously urging his life power Upanishad. A drop of blood emerged on his fingertip, which had vigorous vitality that could revive the dry tree. Sizzle! His drop of blood fell on the heart core. The heart core absorbed that drop of blood instantly like a dry sponge. The heart core flashed and Shiryen heard a heartbeat. Right after that, the coffin emitted an immense white light. The ivory light moved through the bones connected to the coffin to the bone pond. The dry pond suddenly had some viscous liquid. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The little skeleton cried painfully in the bottom of the bone pond. He looked so pitiful that he seemed to be going crazy. Yen was bewildered. He hadn't expected that these parents from the White Bone clan only wanted to save their child before they died. The energy he had poured into the skeleton had followed the old path through the coffin to the bone pond. All they had done was for the little skeleton in the bone pond. They didn't even mind their lives. Yen came from another world. His parents had gone early. Although he had inherited a big fortune from his parents, he had never experienced the sort of sacrificing parental love. Ever since he had come to this world, he had rarely been touched. And today, he was deeply touched when he knew the way the two skeletons in the coffins had used to protect their child. If we pour energy into the coffins, it will be poured into the bone pond afterward. To bring you to this world, they had sacrificed as much as they could. Yen took a deep breath and then said, "We can't use this method. How about moving them out of the coffins and then I will try again? What do you think?" The little skeleton balled his body in a corner of the bone pond. It was crying silently in pain and hopelessness. It was almost desperate. Hearing Yen's suggestion, it pulled itself together, nodded to Yen, and jumped out of the pond. They were about to move his father's body out of the coffin. Right when it was about to take action, the Skull Island shook hard. A furious energy fluctuation came from the area above Yen's head. The little skeleton was extremely enraged. Hesitated for a while, it decided to go out and see. However, it was worried about Yen, so it ordered the bone dragon to protect Yen. Yen was surprised. He didn't know that Meiji of the Phantom Clan could be so powerful to get rid of the confinement that quickly. Skull Island. A cold ice mountain peak was coiled by so many lights. A flaming chain was releasing scorching heat to melt the ice peak. The ice peak confined Meiji's graceful body. However, fear had filled her beautiful eyes on her charming, pale face. She looked afar. In the mist above her head, two silhouettes slowly landed. They were two old, dry men with thick corpse chi. They all wore strange green robes with a drawing of a mysterious black hole on the left chest. They were all lanky with deep green, spooky eyes and bluish-green skin. Their arms were strangely long and they could reach their calves. However, their hands had only 3 fingers, which were as sharp as swords. The deep green eyes looked at Meiji like venomous eyes that gazed at a delicious prey. Meiji's visage changed dramatically. At first glance, she knew the two old men's identities. Shivers sent down her spine. Rumble! Rumble! Right after they had landed, the Skull Island was shaken grumblingly. This powerful tremor was what Yen and the little skeleton had found. Meiji didn't create this commotion. A member of the Phantom Clan, snorted one of the old men. He naturally strolled toward Meiji and mumbled to himself, "Oh, the unfathered kid has confined her. I am Meiji from the Phantom Clan. Friends from Devouring Clan, I wonder why you are visiting this island? If you want to attack the White Bone Clan members on this island, we can negotiate." Meiji giggled. She honestly and passionately looked at the 2 members of the Devouring Clan, proactively showing her cooperative intention. Unfortunately, the other 2 didn't have the same idea. They suddenly attacked her. As soon as the old man approached her, he opened his mouth to spurt a python made of corpse chi. The python began to dig into the ice mountain from the foot. The ice cracked and broke as the python wanted to climb up and bite Meiji. Chapter 1404. The Real Origin of the Soul Inside the Ring. Chapter 1404. The Real Origin of the Soul Inside the Ring. Underscore the python made of corpse chi continuously nibbled the ice and cracked it from the foot. The white python then turned into a bright mist under the ice mountain and then seeped into the mountain. Shortly after, an arm-sized rope coiled around Meiji. Boom, boom, boom. The ice peak exploded. Countless ice rocks shattered. The meteor-like beams of light and the flaming chain turned into a flow of light that disappeared into the ground of the Skull Island. Meiji suddenly understood something. The little skeleton of the White Bone Clan didn't want to kill or harm her. The starlight beams and the flaming chain hovering around just wanted to bind her and prevent her from running away. After the ice peak exploded, those lights and flames disappeared into the ground. It was enough to prove that the little skeleton didn't want to kill her. Otherwise, those meteor-like lights and flames could have seized the chance to destroy her when the python broke the ice. She would have been hurt badly or even killed. Ah! The old man from the devouring clan was surprised when he looking at the lights and flames disappearing into the ground. He frowned and then sneered. That illegitimate child is kind enough to not attack her brutally. It spared her life. Haha, it's good then. He gave me a good advantage this time. His shiny bluish face was like snakeskin. It gave a cold and evil impression. At this moment, he grinned fiendishly and lustily. His deep green eyes lingered on Meiji's sexy body. He gulped and laughed eccentrically. The women of the Phantom Clan are all heavenly treasures. Haha, she's at the same realm as me. It's true that you can't stop your fortune when it comes to you. I'm going to make you a corpse slave and you will serve me every day. It's the best thing in the world. Excellent. The white python wound around Meiji's delicate waist, her round rear end, and her ample breasts. It squeezed her white, jade-like skin, leaving the red marks on it. This cruel, beautiful sadism could ignite any man's desire and burn their mind instantly. The two old men of the devouring clan had naked lust fill their eyes. The old man standing further away even had a boner in his pants. His blood chi was running chaotically. He couldn't help but let out a low shout. Bastos, give this woman to me. I want her for 10 years. After 10 years, I will return her to you. Just say that she's one of the payment you have to give to me this time. The green lines like venomous snakes were moving inside his pupils. The other old man, who was called Bastos, twitched. His eyes greedily scanned Meiji's body several times. He took a deep breath to pull himself together. Nazario, I can let you keep this woman for 10 years. But you have agreed with me that you have to do your best to deal with that rascal from the White Bone clan. No problem. Nazario licked his lip. The two old men from the devouring clan came here for the little skeleton. They had accidentally met Meiji here. Women of the Phantom Clan were famous treasures in this vast cosmos. Every man would treasure them as their most precious asset. Unfortunately, the Phantom Clan was one of the 7 great clans. Each of the female warriors of this clan was powerful and noble. Not many people could capture the Phantom Clan women to enjoy the endless pleasure that they could bring. Meiji was at the peak of immortal realm. With her power, when she was at her peak condition, she wouldn't fall into a disadvantageous situation when facing these two old men from the devouring clan. It was too bad for her that her condition was really bad at this moment. Thus, the corpse chi python could capture her and send the corpse chi into her body to affect her. The corpse chi slowly affected her flesh and blood. She could feel her flexible body go numb and stiff. Whenever she tried to urge her energy and power Upanishad, the python squeezed her tighter as if it wanted to have her right at her waist. She gritted her teeth and felt so resentful upon listening to the two old men talk. As she opened her mouth to talk, the corpse chi flooded her mouth. Thus, she decided to shut up. Meiji felt utterly insulted. She loathed the two old men, Shiryen, and the little skeleton too. She thought that if the other two didn't trick her, with her full power, she wouldn't be afraid of these two sinister, vulgar old men. Thinking about the mantis-green eyes of the two old men and their sharp fingers, which would possibly slide on her beautiful, soft body in the future, she got goosebumps. Her heart was filled with cold despair. She had made up her mind. If she couldn't find a chance to overturn this, she was going to use her power Upanishad to freeze her body and then self-detonate before the corpse chi invaded her sea of consciousness fully. Even if she had to die, she was never going to let herself fall to these two devouring clans' old men. She'd rather die than live like that. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Flapping sounds arose. The two snow-white bone dragons had come back and appeared in Meiji's sight. Meiji's eyes brightened. She looked at the little skeleton and Shiryen riding the bone dragons with the hope for a new change to this situation. Child born out of wedlock. You can't believe I'm here for you, right? You hurt me last time. I have to spend a lot of time to recover. Today, I'm not alone. I'm here with the power of 2 experts at the peak of immortal realm. Let's see how you can protect your parents' bodies. Mwahaha, I've talked to Nazario. We will each keep one of your parents. After we refine them into corpse slaves, they will be powerful assistants for us to swagger. The devouring clan member called Bastos grinned fiendishly and eccentrically. His eyes raked through the skeleton riding the bone dragon. He didn't even give Shuryen a look. The aura on Shuryen's body was ordinary to him. While Shuryen hadn't emerged yet, he had already confirmed his realm and cultivation base. A first sky of a mortal realm warrior in his eyes couldn't support the little skeleton. Is that him? Nazario subsided his tide-like desire to Meiji. He got himself together quickly. What did you find in our precursor's vestiges? Our precursor had been here a long time ago. At that time, the parents of this illegitimate kid were refining him. Our precursor wanted to seize the chance to kill its parents and make them corpse slaves. Unexpectedly, even at the final phase of their process, they were still very powerful. They attacked our precursor and wounded him badly. He had to run away. Not long after he left this place, he knew that he couldn't survive the damages. He had used his last drops of energy to create his cave mansion vestige so someone from our clan could find it later. When Bastos talked about their precursor, he looked respectful as if he was slowly blowing the dust on a piece of their history. Inside the vestige, he told us about this secret. He even showed the location of this island. He said that the parents of this kid couldn't survive for a long time. He asked us to come and refine them into corpse slaves. It's to take revenge for him. He coldly looked at the little skeleton. 30 years ago, I followed the direction and came here. However, this bastard has already formed. I couldn't defeat it, so I had to run. I've spent 30 years recovering. That's why I came to you and asked you to join me on this affair. You can have one of its parents' bodies to refine your corpse slave. Pausing for a while, Bastos shouted, the bone body of the White Bone Clan Territory Ancestor Realm experts. They're the best for creating corpse slaves. Once we can refine them, the voice of our branch in the clan will be more powerful. The bone body of the Territory Ancestor Realm expert. Nazario's dark green eyes moved fast. He couldn't hide his greed. He looked at Meiji, who was under the python's attack, and then at the little skeleton. He grinned and nodded to the other. I want that phantom woman and one bone body. You can keep the other body and this little skeleton. Deal. Bastos agreed. They exchanged looks and laughed loudly as they felt so content. Shuryen wore a calm face while sitting on the bone dragon, even though a high wave was rising in his heart. They were two devouring clan members. The devouring clan was the race that Devour, the absolute beginning creature, had used his blood and flesh to create. It was one of the 7 great clans in this vast cosmos, and also the most mysterious and evil. Devour used to impart the devouring power Upanishad and the 8 great evil powers for this clan. However, throughout the perpetual time of inheritance, the devouring power Upanishad was lost. Even the 8 great evil powers were scattered and incomplete. Even so, in the sea domain of nihility and the other territories in this immense universe, no one dared to look down on the devouring clan. It was still one of the strongest clans. Devour was the archenemy of Desolate. Their combat had carried out for billions of years, and it hadn't ended yet. Desolate had created Bloodthirsty. When it was about to impart the power Upanishad to Bloodthirsty, Devour attacked it. Devour had successfully given Bloodthirsty the devouring power Upanishad and the 8 great powers. It made Bloodthirsty turn around to destroy Desolate's incipient extent and inevitably kill Desolate too. In the end, Bloodthirsty had used the supernatural and peerless talents to understand the power and backfire Devour. After that battle, Devour was shut down ever since. Bloodthirsty had built up Bloodthirsty force, and with his extraordinary power, he had defeated Devour with devouring power Upanishad and the 8 great evil powers. After Devour had left to fight against Desolate, the devouring clan had gradually lost its inheritance. Quite the contrary, in Desolate territory, Devour's inheritance, the Bloodthirsty force, had the complete inheritances of the power. It was a joke that the creator played on Devour. Today, seeing the 2 members of the devouring clan, Shuryen closed his eyes to sense for a while. He was shaken hard. The secret that had troubled him for a long time was solved when he saw the devouring clan members. After Bloodthirsty was gone, the blood vein ring was divided into 3 parts. Lao Luo, Xian Shan, and Xian He used them to create the inheritance on the ancient continents. Xian He failed. Lao Luo brought Shuryen here. And Xian Shan appeared to have failed, but he actually brought a soul from another universe. That soul discreetly supported Harson. Harson also failed and Shuryen had killed him. That soul had swallowed the ring spirit and attempted to seize Shuryen's body. And then, when Bloodthirsty's remains were gradually exposed, that soul had another evil thought. It enticed Shuryen to gather Bloodthirsty's remains so it could use his remains to resurrect itself. Shuryen didn't know where that soul had come from. And today, as he saw the members of the Devouring Clan, he realized the answer. Even though that soul had tried to hide it, its aura and vague appearance were very similar to the two members of the Devouring Clan in front of him. That soul came from the Devouring Clan in the sea domain of Nihility. He understood the situation of the bloodthirsty force, and he knew the 8 great evil powers. That was why he could activate the mysterious formation on the island inside the Dark Abyss. Possibly, that soul was the backup plan that Devour, the absolute beginning creature, had preserved. Devour had used its power to bring a soul it had chosen from the race it had created. It wanted to make that soul the new master of bloodthirsty force, which was going to change the structure of desolate territory and start a new round of battles with Desolate. Chapter 1405, Mysterious Een Corpse Worm. Chapter 1405, Mysterious Een Corpse Worm. _sizzle. Sizzle. The white python made of the corpse chi tied Meiji as if it was an arm-sized rope. Meiji's body was hung in midair on the skull dragon. Countless corpse chi wisps from the python were intruding her body while it kept hissing. The Devouring Clan had 8 branches, which cultivated the 8 great devil powers. Nazario and Bastos belonged to the corpse chi branch. This division was similar to the 8 forces of the bloodthirsty force. The Devouring Clan members who cultivated corpse chi had mastered refining corpse slaves. They had some intimidating corpse slaves that were even stronger than their masters. The Devouring Clan had many different styles in refining the corpse slaves. However, making the corpse chi seep into the body until it brimmed and diffused was the fundamental method of refining corpses. Bastos's corpse chi python was actually his strange tool to refine corpses. This secret treasure could make the corpse toxin intrude the victim's body slowly and transform the blood, flesh, and vitality of any creature. It would make the body filled with corpse chi, which facilitated the next step to create a corpse slave. When the body was invaded, the corpse chi winded around the soul and body of the victim. The victim then became stiff and lost consciousness. Feeling so many wisps of corpse toxins moving inside her body, Meiji slowly saw illusions and her thinking got sluggish. Her eyes gradually lost light and became dulled and blank. Her white, glowing skin was now sickly pale. She knew that the python created by some strange tool was using the corpse toxin to erode her bit by bit. She gathered her spirit, which she was slowly losing, and bit the corners of her mouth. 2 trickles of blood oozed and rolled to her neck. They looked like terrifying, eye-catching worms. Bam! A wave of cool energy came out of her round breasts, her chest shaking. A snow-white lotus with blood veins on the petals grew on her chest, covering her entire charming body. Meiji's eyes regained light. She looked at the 2 members of the Devouring Clan in the distance and pointed at the python's head that was facing the lotus on her chest. An icy saber emerged. The snake's head exploded. The corpse chi flows became smaller wisps. However, it was just for a moment. The corpse chi then congregated and condensed, covering Meiji one more time. Not far from her, Bastos was watching with a teasing face. With your realm and cultivation base, I can't actually tie you down. Anyway, your wounds are really bad and you have just 1/3 of your god power left. How can you resist my corpse toxin corrosion? Indeed, as soon as his voice vanished, the python Meiji had just beheaded reappeared and coiled Meiji and her snow lotus altogether. To create the snow lotus, Meiji had to pay with serious damage to her body. After this failure, she couldn't attack sufficiently again. Before she lost her ability to speak, her bright eyes gazed at the little skeleton and she cried weakly, "I could only distract him for a while. It's what I can do. I hope you can kill these two. I hope that you could endure it." She understood clearly that with her current condition, she couldn't stand Bastos or Nazario. She could only lay her hope on the little skeleton. She hoped that it could be resilient. The only thing she could do now was to not yield to them. She would use her little amount of remaining energy to trouble Bastos and make him distracted by attacking him. She didn't even look at Shiryen. At this moment, her life was her top priority. The idea of refining Shiryen to help her reach the territory ancestor realm was now out of reach. Moreover, she didn't have enough energy to waste on a useless junior. In this battle, Shiryen was predestined as a minor, unimportant character. She thought so too. The little skeleton had the same thought. It turned to Shiryen, its crystal arms swinging at the bone dragons and asking them to take Shiryen further from this area to avoid the devouring clan expert's ambush. Swoosh! The bone dragon immediately flew away and carried Shiryen further away from this battle. The bone dragon dropped Shiryen and then soared up into the sky. It flew around the little skeleton. Rattle! Rattle! Strange noises suddenly arose from Bastos's sleeves of the green robes. So many shiny white worms flooded out of his sleeves. Those worms had many legs like centipedes. However, each of their legs was as sharp as a sword. Although the worms were just as big as a thumb, there were hundreds of thousands of them. After they had flown out of his sleeves, they crept rapidly toward the little skeleton. Shiryen squinted to watch, his face changed. The mysterious in-corpse worms. As the new master of Bloodthirsty, although he didn't know all of the 8 great, evil powers, he did know the secrets of these powers. The mysterious in-corpse worms were a kind of strange insect that a force-cultivating corpse chi like Frederick bred. They had to nibble the corpses of the experts for at least 100 years to be able to transform to mysterious in-corpse worms. This kind of corpse worm was cold with saber-like legs that could tear an expert's body easily. They would enter the bodies to nibble from the inside. Starting from the stomach and the internal organs, they would eat an expert from the inside. No saber or sword could cut the mysterious in-corpse worm. Water and fire were also useless. Those worms had strange energy waves that could affect the sea of consciousness. The corpse worms from Bastos' sleeves cried sharply. While they were marching toward the little skeleton, Shiryen also felt his soul fall in pain. It felt like he got stabbed with pointy spikes. He knew that those mysterious in-corpse worms were really tough. It was really hard to refine one worm. They had to eat at least hundreds of corpses, and the expert had to refine them for hundreds of years. Each mysterious in-corpse worm was just as big as a thumb, but Shiryen knew that they ate a lot. A worm could finish an entire warrior in 2 hours. Facing a wave of so many mysterious in-corpse worms, let alone ordinary creatures, even a giant beast of heavenly monster tribe couldn't endure them for long. The worms could even finish their bones. However, while facing the members of the Whitebone clan, the mysterious in-corpse worms couldn't do much. The corpse toxins and flesh-eating worms were not effective against the little skeleton. The little skeleton stood in front of the bone dragons and watched the worms swarm. It didn't want to dodge at all. The toxin from the mysterious in-corpse worms and the worms couldn't affect it at all. The skeleton lifted his head to look at Bastos as if he was wondering why Bastos had done such useless attacks, which made him bewildered. Haha, Bastos sneered. The palms of his hands suddenly glowed. The fingerprint light flew out from his hands and created something like magical curtains above the corpse worms. The two formations seemed to have an evil power that stimulated the mysterious in-corpse worms and made them insanely brutal. The worms hissed and risked their lives, swarming forward. The corpse worms covered the little skeleton instantly. The insect's crying and shrieking was so sharp that it could tear people's eardrums. Shiryen's face was cold as he had to use the space power Upanishad to confine his area to protect himself from the harmful sound waves. When the terrifying shrieking arose, blood ran out of Meiji's eyes, nostrils, and ears. Her charming face became paler. My corpse worms can only disturb its soul. They can't eat the skeleton. This bastard's bones are really tough. My corpse worms can't chew it. I need your power to kill it. After the little skeleton was covered in the pile of worms, Bastos took a deep breath and then turned to Nazario. Of course, I'm here to give you a hand. Nazario nodded. He coughed and then strolled toward the little skeleton. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two bone dragons were enraged. They stormed over, biting and tearing to protect the little skeleton. Nazario looked calm as he touched his glabella. His incipient extent emerged from the crown of his head. Piles of bones like mountains appeared in an immense world. The vast, seething sea in the middle of that world contained something viscous like liquid that oozed out from the corpses. Thousands of dismembered bodies from different clans floated and bobbed together with cut limbs, eyeballs, fingers, or even skulls in that sea. An eccentric fist-sized eyeball floated and drifted from the sea of corpses. From the corpse sea, countless beams of corpse chi condensed and turned into wisps of white air that poured into that eyeball. Nazario grabbed it and brought it out of his incipient extent. Corpses crack. Holding the strange eyeball facing the two dragons, Nazario shouted in the ancient language of the devouring clan. Crack! 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 The two bone dragons suddenly had so many thick, fine cracks as if they were gashed by invisible blades. Boom! One of the bone dragons exploded, its bones shattering. Nazario frowned and avoided the pieces of bones from that bone dragon. He walked toward the small skeleton. The mysterious corpse worms in his way seemed to sense his intimidating aura. They scattered and gave him a narrow path that led to the little skeleton. Bastos hovered in the air and focused on using his power Upanishad. The two fingerprints like massive hands slowly snatched down from the sky and made the mysterious corpse worms hiss and shriek harder. The soul-piercing shrieks from the worms had pressured the little skeleton, which created a chance for Bastos to crack the skeleton. Shuryen watched silently. He didn't take rash actions. He observed the moves of the two members of the devouring clan and their power Upanishads. When the others were about to kill the little skeleton, Shuryen changed his thoughts, and a strange energy fluctuated that spreaded from him. He suddenly vanished like a wisp of smoke. When he reappeared, he was behind Meiji's sexy body. Meiji faced Bastos and Nazario. These two had concentrated on killing the little skeleton, and they didn't even bat an eye at him. They didn't notice that when he disappeared and reappeared, Meiji was standing and shielding in front of him. Also, the other two didn't even care about Meiji, so they didn't see Shuryen hiding behind her. Bastos and Nazario didn't look at him, but Meiji shivered as she could sense his commotion. She was anxious, her eyes desperate and bitter. It was karma when this rascal could have a chance to ambush her. It was good then. At least, it was better than falling into the two old men's hands. Meiji sighed inwardly. Chapter 1406, Detoxify. Chapter 1406, Detoxify. Meiji sighed. It was the first time she regretted that she had provoked Shuryen. She knew all of her troubles were caused by her greed. If she hadn't provoked Shuryen, she wouldn't have offended Forefather Dragon Lizard and two Shur-Chi from the mysterious Sky Clan. She wouldn't have needed to join hands with Sing to end up getting wounded seriously when Shuryen's world-within-world exploded. It wouldn't have ignited her wrath and tempted her to chase after him until she was exhausted. And now, they were on this White Bone Clan Skull Island. She reaped what she sowed. Shuryen had pushed her to a tragic death. Meiji was so regretful that she wanted to die. Shortly after, a pair of rough, big hands were placed on her exposed back. The hands were warm and they didn't send any fatal energy to attack her when they were placed on her beautiful back. Meiji was touched. She woke up immediately and bit her lips. She pressed her voice to the lowest audible level. Little thief. Your lust is too big. You're about to die, but you still have the mood to harass me. She thought that Shuryen wanted to seize the chance to sexually harass her. Harass you? Shuryen's voice was cold and stiff behind her. I don't have free time to do that. I'll only ask you one question. If I save you this time, what should you do about the grudge between us? Save me. Meiji thought that she had heard a good joke before she died. With only you? Do you think you've reached the territory ancestor realm and have the strength to help me detoxify the corpse toxin in my body and get rid of this python? You're too confident. Meiji thought that unless he had reached the territory ancestor realm, it was just a dream to save her from this situation. The evil power Upanishads of the devouring clan was always peculiar. The corpse chi was even worse. It was almost impossible to heal a victim of the corpse toxin in a short time. Shiryen was just a small warrior at first sky of immortal realm. Also, she had witnessed his recent breakthrough. What did he have to save her from the corpse toxin? It was the biggest joke ever. We don't have much time. I'm asking you again. If I can save her, what will you do? Think an answer. If I'm not satisfied with your answer, you'll lose your only hope. Shiryen sounded ruthless and cold. However, his words echoed strongly. Meiji didn't know whether she should cry or smile. She just thought that the kid behind her didn't know how high the sky was. If you help me break this blockage, I'm willing to humble and harass myself by serving you dedicatedly. The women of our clan are the best dreams of all men. I'm sure I can give you endless delight. I'm never interested in the sort of woman who would take any man as their husband, Shiryen sneered. Anyway, your attitude pleases me. Who said I'll take anyone to be my husband? Meiji's alluring face seemed frosty. She was so angry that she shivered and spoke coldly. Although we were born with the gift of the soul enchanting technique, we keep ourselves clean. If I can move, I will cut your tongue first. Well, you can still make wind of this situation. We can't talk to women, indeed, Shiryen sneered again. Censored part. In the next moment, Meiji was tense when rough hands slid from her back to her sensitive waist. And they continued sliding further downward. You. What are you doing? She hissed through her gritted teeth. What are you afraid of? Shiryen's mocking voice arose behind her. You've been F***king chasing me for a long time. I know you're hungry for me. And now, you said that you're a virgin. I need to check to see whether it's true. If it's true, I will give you face by satisfying this hungry, resentful woman. You dare. Meiji's bright eyes became anxious and restless. She cultivated ice power Upanishad. The soul enchanting technique was just a special innate ability that the Phantom Clan women had. From her power Upanishad, one could tell that she wasn't a loose person. To the Phantom Clan women, the enchanting technique was just a trick, and it was a deadly trick, anyway. They didn't use it to win someone's heart. If they wanted to win someone's heart, they would only do that to the loyal and dedicated male guests or their life partners the clan had matched for them. The Phantom Clan women with high realms would never sacrifice their bodies. Their clan didn't have male members. They were the trump cards in their clan. They had to be the beautiful source of troubles to make this vast sea of stars chaotic. However, they all kept their purity. Meiji was this sort of woman. Shiryen's big hands wandered on her back and butt cheeks. Under the soft, silky dress, they were moving toward the joint between her thighs. She was extremely frightened, and her flame of wrath rose torrentially. She couldn't turn her head around to see Shiryen. At this moment, his face looked ultimately grave. He didn't even have any vulgar intention as sweat beaded on his forehead. His hands slowly reached and placed on Meiji's most mysterious area. When Meiji was shivering in anger and was about to use her last beam of energy to resist, a small black hole appeared on Shiryen's hand. That black hole revolved rapidly and a strong but strange suction force began to work. Meiji's fragrant grass became warm and the suction force was like a rapid electric current that shot through her entire body. The corpse toxin in her body was attracted and it moved downward. She suddenly had an urge to urinate and she couldn't hold it. Immediately, her stream of urine was discharged. The corpse toxin in her body was rolled into the urine and discharged from her body in such a humiliating way that she couldn't stand it. They flowed out of her mysterious, sensitive place and poured on Shiryen's hand. Her water ran through the gaps between Shiryen's fingers while the black hole in his palm swallowed all the corpse toxin. The python coiling Meiji's sexy body became like a withered flower. It dried strangely. It seemed like the python's nutrient and life energy was drawn. From the size of an arm, it shrunk until it was as big as a finger. Even then, it continued shriveling. Meiji's numb body started to get better as she was discharging urine uncontrollably. Seeing the python get smaller, Meiji felt both humiliated and surprised. She didn't know how and why Shiryan had drawn the toxin out of her body. Also, he had applied such a deviant way to take them out of her body. Even if she squeezed her brain, she could never think that Shiryan was using the Devouring Power Upanishad, the lost power Upanishad of the Devouring Clan, on his hand, which was placed on her sensitive part of the body. The Devouring Clan had the Devouring Power Upanishad that topped the others. It had subdued all the other 8 great, evil power Upanishads. The Devouring Power Upanishad could swallow all the energy generated by the other 8 power Upanishads. It could devour corpse toxin, erosive toxins, death energy, and even dark energy. It was also the reason why after Shiryan swallowed energy, he could send extra energy to warriors cultivating one of the 8 power Upanishads through the mark on their foreheads. Sizzle. Sizzle. The pythons suddenly disappeared. A rope made of white hair on corpses fell on the ground. Without energy, this secret treasure had fallen off Meiji's body. Meiji regained her mobility. Her soft body was quivering. Her silky dress was soaked wet and her lower body felt damp and sticky. She stooped and found a hand placed on the joint of her thighs. Humiliation and unspoken indignity appeared on her face. She loathed that she couldn't kill herself at this spot. She felt sorry for her reputation. She had been receiving nice names and glories, arrogantly enjoying so many top-qualified privileges. However, all burned down because of this humiliating moment. She had urinary incontinence. This attack wasn't less than a big damage to her body. Her heart was filled with resentment and sour, bitter feelings. However, she had no way to vent it. It seems like you've recovered. Before her volcano had erupted, Shiryan had retracted his hands and stepped away from her. When she turned around to see, she found Shiryan shaking his left hand off the water on it. A streak of glittering fluid seemed to ridicule her ugly, embarrassing performance. It drove her crazy. Shiryan shook off the urine on his hand right in front of Meiji. He rubbed his hand with the cloth on his side. Right after that, he wore a calm face as if nothing had happened. He said indifferently, if the 2 monsters of the Devouring Clan aren't dead, we're all doomed. Although your god power isn't abundant now, you're at the peak of immortal realm. Yeah, you don't need me to teach you how and what to do, right? Meiji got it immediately. Shiryan unchained her to make her risk her life with the 2 old experts of the Devouring Clan. He wanted to use her last drop of power to exchange for his life. Meiji was so resentful that she even felt her teeth itch. At this moment, she pushed aside the attempt to figure out how Shiryan had sucked all the corpse toxin out of her body. What was left in her was only her indignation. I have only a part of my god power left. Do you want me to explode my soul altar to help you get rid of this? Shiryan shrugged. You won't let me go there to die? Even if I go there, I have no way to overturn the situation. You can do it, more or less. He did want Meiji to die together with the 2 Devouring Clan experts. He had observed and he knew Meiji had a deep grudge against the others because they wanted to turn her into a corpse slave. He had recognized when she even wanted to kill herself in her despair. You want to die anyway. If you can drag 1 Devouring Clan monster with you to cushion your back, will it not be very convenient? To the woman who wanted to kill him and refine his soul to help her reach the territory ancestor realm, Shiryan didn't have a bit of compassion. All that he had done was just to turn the situation around. Boom. Boom. At this moment, another bone dragon shattered. Of the 2 old monsters of the Devouring Clan, one was using a massive fingerprint to increase the soul pressure, and the other was holding a white eyeball to gather the energy to strike the little skeleton. All of a sudden, Bastos shivered. He turned around to look at the other side. He had finally found something wrong. Shiryan pointed at the rope made of white hair by Meiji's foot. When that thing receives the corpse chi, it will become that powerful, intimidating python. Damn, why didn't you tell me earlier? Meiji changed her visage. She gathered her god power. Sharp icicles appeared and stabbed the white rope. The rope cracked and made sounds that indicated it cracked, but it didn't disconnect or break. However, Bastos was shaken hard and his face was pale. It's his life treasure, Shiryen shouted. He didn't need to think and he slashed his bloody sword. A 100-meter blood light grumblingly hacked on the white rope. This rope was made of white hair of the members from 100 races. From one full force attack of the bloody sword, it was halved. Tui. Bastos couldn't help but spurt blood. His spirit, chi, and soul became fatigued immediately. He shouted as if his madness had finally burst out. Roaring and crying, he crazily dashed toward the others. Temporarily, he left the little skeleton behind. Chapter 1407, Join Hands. Chapter 1407, Join Hands. Underscore the life treasures of the warriors connected to the host's soul, sea of consciousness, and even to the god power ancient tree. Typically, a warrior refined only one life treasure, which they tried to maximize. The life treasure could perform a lot of magical functions. As the warrior and his life treasure was connected through the soul, the power sent to the treasure wouldn't be disrupted, and he could even send his soul consciousness together with the energy. However, when the life treasure was damaged badly, the owner received the same damage. In some worse cases, when the life treasure shattered, the owner's body exploded altogether. In the worst case, the owner's soul was torn to pieces. Bastos's white rope was made of the white hair of corpses from 100 different races. He had refined it with many rare and precious materials for several hundred years. That white rope was called corpse reins, and it was the fundamental tool he had to refine the corpse. This corpse reins helped him refine and tame many corpses. This white rope was a terrifying whip to his corpse slaves. Outside the Skull Island, layers of mist hovered. That white mist could defend the corpse slaves. The parents of the little skeleton had created the mist to protect the area. Thus, Bastos and Nazario couldn't bring the corpse slaves with them this time. Otherwise, with 2 more corpse slaves, they would have finished this battle perfectly. One of the magical functions of this corpse reins was that it could absorb vitality to turn a vigorous warrior into a stiff corpse. It facilitated the corpse refining process a lot. The python created by the corpse reins had coiled Meiji for a while. If it had held her for longer, she would have lost her consciousness. She would have become a corpse without the ability to reason. After that, Bastos could have activated her brain to make her his standard corpse slave. He didn't think and just dashed forward at his max speed. A white light tore the sky. Bastos waved his hands on the way and the feeling of connected flesh came to him. 2 pieces of the corpse reins suddenly shivered and moved like a snake. Slowly, they reconnected and they looked almost intact. Shiryen was still far away, so he couldn't stop him. He could only shout at Meiji, "Try your best to stop him." Meiji cursed Shiryen's ancestors and gritted her teeth to urge the little bit of energy she had. A broad ice sword slowly emerged from her palm. The body of the sword reflected her beautiful body. It looked like she was carving her soul seal onto it. The ice sword was formed. Meiji's face became even paler. Her jade-like arm rose and slashed on the corpse reins' old cut. Sizzle. The corpse reins was cut off again, and it sent ice pieces everywhere. Wisps of ivory corpse chi emitted from the cut mouth. Bastos was on his way. He halted as if he had just barged into a mountain. He turned dark and sinister, roaring crazily. "That low woman! I'm sure I will make you wish that you were dead. I will definitely show you what happens if you offend me." Meiji was so cold. She knew that even if she had to detonate her soul altar, she would never let herself fall into Bastos' hands. Otherwise, she would have to endure an extreme torment which would make her want to die. She turned her head and her dark eyes gazed at Shiryen. "Are you satisfied now? Is it what you want?" Shiryen frowned and didn't say anything. He moved away and stayed far away from her and Bastos. Meiji looked at him in the eyes twice. In the end, she begrudgingly turned around. Another snow lotus bloomed on her ample breast with bleeding petals. It was beautiful and alluring like her exquisite glamour. The bleeding snow lotus had drained Meiji's life energy. At this rate of losing vitality, she must have used some kind of mysterious technique. As Shiryen guessed, she was about to risk her life with Bastos, even if she had to pay with her own life. A wave of strange soul energy came from her brain. Her icy eyes were now filled with resolution. Bastos was coming with rage. He halted a few hundred steps away from Meiji as he was shaken hard. Bastos didn't dare to move even a step further. He didn't even dare to look at the treasure that was connected with his life. He didn't dare to take it back. It was because of the strange energy fluctuation from Meiji. It was like a volcano that could erupt at any minute. Once it was activated, it would release the last light and drag everybody close to the abyss to hell. As they were all at the peak of immortal realm, Bastos understood clearly that Meiji had only a bit of her god power left. However, when she decided to destroy her life, the energy from her death was going to be enough to shatter him altogether. In a specific range, he couldn't stand or avoid this. If you want to die, just do it. I don't have free time to waste on you. Bastos hovered in front of her, his face dark. All of a sudden, his brows twitched. He swayed and changed his direction, dashing towards Shiryen. When he had just turned around, he saw Shiryen slashing a bloodlight. He knew it was the thing that cut off his corpse reins. Thus, Shiryen was his enemy too. Meiji had prepared to shatter the jade together with the stones. Seeing Bastos change his target in fear, her eyes brightened with cold light when her evil plan worked. She sneered and looked at Shiryen from a distance, feeling really good. Hey, old dog. If you want to kill me, you still need to work hard. If you don't believe me, come and try. Shiryen was like an illusion shifting through this skull island. His figure flashed and then disappeared. Then, he reappeared 10,000 miles away. Using the space power Upanishad, he was like a shadow that no one could capture. He didn't linger at any spot. The short rest on the Skull Island had allowed him to regenerate his energy a little bit. He wasn't a lamp without oil. If he wanted to run, he had enough energy to endure for a while. When Meiji wanted to kill him, she had struggled a lot. And now it worked on Bastos too. Bastos was moving crazily, but he couldn't lock Shiryen down. Especially when Shiryen used dark energy, he could turn invisible. Bastos became hot-tempered and restless. Meiji was watching everything with a nonchalant face. She felt delighted when Bastos was roaring like a tiger but couldn't capture Shiryen. She had experienced this situation before, so she understood Bastos feeling well. Also, Bastos cultivated only the corpse chi. He didn't know how to use the soul power to find an expert with dark energy who was hiding. Thus, it was more difficult to deal with Shiryen. What made Meiji more surprised was that the thick corpse chi that Bastos had released massively didn't work on Shiryen. Shiryen was still moving agilely. He wasn't affected even a bit from Bastos' attack. Meiji subsided her delight of taking revenge. Her beautiful eyes became stern. She had a feeling that Shiryen cultivated some technique that could suppress Bastos. She had this feeling since Shiryen used a humiliating method that she would never forget to suck the corpse toxin from her body out. When she finally had time to focus her mind, this feeling became clearer. Something could subdue the power Upanishads of the devouring clan. Meiji couldn't react. She searched through her head, thinking about strange and rare power Upanishads, but she couldn't find anything that matched. It made her bewildered, indeed. She didn't relate it to the devouring power Upanishad because of 3 reasons. First, it was the top, supreme power Upanishad of the devouring clan. Second of all, this power was lost, even in the devouring clan. Third, Shiryen wasn't a member of the devouring clan. She just thought that Shiryen was mysterious, and he seemed to have many secrets she couldn't understand. While she was observing, the corpse reins by her disappeared unknowingly. It seemed like Bastos had retrieved it. She didn't mind as she was busy taking in the pellets that the Phantom Clan had refined to regenerate her energy, even if it wasn't that significant. She turned to look at the battle between the little skeleton and Nazario. The mysterious Ain corpse worm still covered the skeleton. However, they weren't as strong as when Bastos had used his power to support them. Their shrieking wasn't enough to trouble the skeleton's soul now. It troubled Nazario to apply his power Upanishad on the little skeleton. At this moment, the little skeleton's eyes twinkled radiantly. A flaming light and an icy light shot out, which annoyed Nazario a lot. Nazario became a little helter-skelter. The eyeball in his eyes looked tired, as if it had consumed a lot of energy. Bastos, what the heck are you doing? Don't chase that kid. Kill this bastard first. Nazario panted and couldn't help but yell. Bastos got himself together while persistently chasing after Shiryen. He knew that he didn't have a lot of time left. It would be better to join hands with the other to kill the skeleton instead of wasting time on pursuing Shiryen. After that, they would have plenty of time to defeat Shiryen and Meiji. Shiryen was moving strangely. Bastos couldn't catch him. Meiji was ready to explode herself altogether. Bastos didn't have any solution to deal with her quickly. Reluctantly, he had to fly back to Nazario. Swoosh! A light shadow slid across. Shiryen reappeared not far from Meiji. He looked at Meiji. Once that little skeleton is killed, you have only one way to go, which is to die altogether. If you help it kill or shoo away the two monsters, we will all survive. If you want, you should go help it. I have only a bit of god power left. If I go there and join the battle, it will be no different than me killing myself. Meiji pulled a cold visage. You little cunning rascal, you're full of bad thoughts. You wanted me to hold one of the old monsters of the Devouring clan. Good calculation. But why I should carry out your plan? I'm only at first sky of Immortal Realm. Once I show up, I'll be killed faster. Shiryen opened his arms and said begrudgingly. I know you're not weak. Meiji's eyes drilled into Shiryen. You shouldn't think about sacrificing me anymore. I will definitely not act as you wish. Shiryen kept silent. He knew his minor calculation couldn't be implemented. Pondering, he suggested, you and I join hands to deal with Bastos. Believe me, we have the power to fight him. I'm sure when he faces you, his power will be reduced massively. Finally, you want to contribute your strength now? Meiji snorted. Shiryen frowned, staying silent. Okay, I'll join you to battle against him. Nothing's worse than death, anyway. I'll accept all the prices. I want to make it clear that if you dare to hide and not risk your life, once I figure it out, I will drag you and Bastos to hell together. Meiji gritted her teeth, talking resentfully. Shiryen nodded his head with a forced smile. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.